Chapter 2881. Has the space-time tunnel been opened? Xiaoping's heart stirred. He immediately sensed the message from Green Ox and Corinne. While he was in seclusion, Chong Xiaoqian, Tan Menglu, and the others had already opened the space-time tunnel between the fiend god universe and the modern universe. He did not expect them to do this so quickly. He could only say that this group of internet-addicted girls was too powerful. They would really do anything for the sake of going online. But this was also good. Even if he destroyed the space-time tunnel created by the fiend god, he would still have a way to reach the fiend god universe. Right, I wonder how those dependents are doing now. Xiaoping immediately immersed his mind. He sensed that a dark golden ball of light had appeared in the depths of his sea of consciousness. This dark golden ball of light could connect with countless golden crow, dependents of hell, and sense their existence. At the same time, he took out the Book of Karma. This book recorded the names of countless golden crow dependents of hell, as well as everything that had happened to them during this period. This was the power of the Book of Karma. Once a person's name was recorded, he could check their past and present lives. Nothing could be hidden from the Book of Karma. No way. They've developed so much. Xiaoping opened the Book of Karma. He immediately saw densely packed names on the book. These were the dependents of the golden crow of hell that had been added in the past 3,000 years. Compared to before he went into seclusion, the number of golden crow dependents of hell had increased by more than 1 billion times. It seemed that the entire fiend god universe and countless worlds had given birth to the dependents of the golden crow of hell, which was also known as furnace wizards. Although 3,000 years was nothing more than a nap for the gods, it was already a long time for the mortals. They had experienced countless reincarnations and died countless times. Of course, the rapid increase in the number of furnace wizards was due to the characteristics of furnace wizards. First of all, it had no aptitude requirements. As long as one believed in the furnace lord and obtained the bloodline of the furnace lord, one could become a furnace wizard and control the golden crow of hell. Of course, although there was no aptitude requirement, humans with aptitude were naturally more powerful than those without. However, due to the characteristics of the low threshold, countless humans had become furnace wizards. It seemed to have become one of the main occupations of many humans. After all, the requirements of other occupations were too high. It didn't require special aptitude, a powerful soul, or an indomitable will. Secondly, the furnace wizards were powerful enough. Their bodies contained the flames of the infernal golden crow, which could burn almost all evil creatures. Countless evil creatures were sacrificed. It could be said that furnace wizards were born with the characteristics of challenging those above them. Even evil creatures that were more powerful than them would be burned to death if they were hit by the golden crow hellfire, let alone evil spirits, ghosts, and other creatures. They were the natural nemesis of the golden crow hellfire. Lastly, the training of the furnace wizard had almost no side effects. For other humans, the stronger wizards had more or less cultivation. The higher levels of furnace wizards were God. The higher levels were higher than the furnace wizards. It could be said that the strongest human experts could only live for 1,000 years at most before dying, unless the other party was willing to give up their human identity and continue living as a monster. Truthfully, this was the choice that countless human experts didn't want to make after they died. They chose to turn into monsters and become the followers of evil gods. They became monsters that were above humans. Moreover, as time passed, they would also forget their identity as humans. Therefore, when the cultivation method of the furnace wizard appeared, almost all of the human powerhouses were excited. There were no side effects of cultivation, and one would not degenerate into a monster. Moreover, one could have a long lifespan. Who could endure such benefits? Because of this, many humans turned to furnace wizards. This caused the number of furnace wizards to increase explosively. It became one of the main occupations of humans. No wonder I have so much origin energy on me. It's all thanks to the furnace wizard. At this moment, Xiaoping also sensed that there was a tremendous amount of origin energy in the depths of his sea of consciousness. It seemed to have condensed into huge light balls that contained abundant energy. It was extremely frightening. Even the origin energy he got from burning the crazy mountain range for 3,000 years couldn't compare. But this was to be expected. The origin energy from the furnace wizards couldn't be compared to the energy from burning the crazy mountain range. Moreover, this was a continuous supply of energy, unlike the crazy mountain range, which was a one-time deal. But these guys are crazy. They're going to sacrifice the evil god. Xiaoping's mouth couldn't help but twitch. He could see the thoughts of these top furnace wizards from the Book of Cause and Effect. They had dominated for thousands of years and killed countless evil god minions. Therefore, these furnace wizards were a little arrogant. They wanted to deal with the sleeping and heavily injured evil god. If they succeeded, they would get great benefits. The problem was that it was an evil god. Even if it only had one grand Tao law, it wasn't something these furnace wizards could compare to. A god was a god. They were many times stronger than demigods. Furthermore, even after 3,000 years of development, the strongest furnace wizard had only reached the undying saint level. He was not much stronger than the evil god's followers. Even if they could challenge those stronger than them, they couldn't fight against those powerful evil gods. I see. There's a reason for this. Xiaoping squinted. He soon realized that these furnace wizards didn't make this decision because they wanted to die. It was because the furnace wizards were in a critical situation. If the furnace wizards were still a weak force, perhaps the evil gods wouldn't care about these weak humans. But after 3,000 years of development, there were many powerful and crazy furnace wizards. This was enough to threaten the evil gods. If these humans were obediently treated as food, the evil gods might not care at all. But these humans actually had the power to threaten the evil gods. That was not good. This was a taboo for any evil god. They wouldn't allow the human race to rise. Because of this, the powerful evil gods saw this and felt that they couldn't let the furnace wizards grow. They decided to sacrifice a large number of sacrifices to awaken the sleeping evil god. Once the evil god awoke, mere human furnace wizards would be like ants. They would be killed in an instant, and it would be impossible for them to continue living. That was why the furnace wizards decided to take the risk and sacrifice the evil god's minions and the evil god together, burning them to ashes. Chapter 2882. The God of Trickery? Xiaoping narrowed his eyes. He knew the name of this evil god through the Book of Karma. It was called the God of Trickery. It seemed to be an evil god that was good at using tricks and sowing discord. In fact, it was a lower god. However, because it was good at using tricks, it had caused many wars among evil gods. Hence, this evil god was somewhat famous in the evil god universe. However, it was not a particularly powerful evil god. Apart from using tricks and deceiving other evil gods, it had no other abilities. Hence, its combat power was relatively weak. However, no matter how weak it was still incredibly powerful compared to the gods. It was definitely not something that mortals could compare to. But this is also an opportunity. Xiaoping's eyes lit up. To be honest, although he had learned about the classification of God's strength from Quetzalcoatl's memory, he had no idea how powerful those gods were. Obviously, this was an opportunity to get in touch with the evil god's power. Moreover, the opponent was only a lower god and was seriously injured. No matter how he looked at it, it was more suitable to test out an evil god. Even if he could not defeat it, he could still escape. Once he knew how powerful the gods were, he would have an idea of what to do. Thinking of this, he could not sit still. According to Furnace Wizard's deduction, the god of trickery might be awakened in a few days. Whoosh! Xiaoping stood up and walked out of the crazy mountain range. There was no need for him to stay in this place. There were not many benefits to be gained, anyway. What's going on? However, as soon as he left the crazy mountain range, he immediately noticed that there were dozens of demigod monsters nearby. They seemed to be wandering around this place. He did not expect to encounter so many demigod monsters as soon as he left the crazy mountain range. However, this was also a very normal thing. After all, this was the fallen god land. If the evil gods had awakened, they would have been everywhere in this place. When the evil gods were in hibernation, the demigod monsters had treated this place as a treasure hunting ground. The crazy mountain range had been burning for 3,000 years. Such a strange thing naturally attracted the attention of countless demigod monsters. Even if some of them were afraid and did not dare to enter casually, there were also some who were very bold and thought that they were strong enough to go in and explore. Hence, there were always some demigod monsters wandering around the crazy mountain range. When Xiaoping came out, he was immediately discovered by many demigod monsters. What? Humans? There are humans in this crazy mountain range? A demigod monster couldn't believe it. It didn't expect that there would be a human in the depths of the crazy mountain range. After all, who didn't know that even the evil god's minions didn't dare to enter the crazy mountain range? Wouldn't it be suicidal for a human to enter? But this human actually came out of the crazy mountain range, and came out alive. This was an incredible thing. It never thought that such a thing would happen. A demigod-level human. This is a demigod-level human. What kind of joke is this? Since when did such a powerful human appear? Strange. There's something very strange about this human. Just how did he cultivate to become so powerful? The pupils of the demigod monsters shrank as they stared at Xiaoping, with a strange look on their faces. In the evil god universe, no matter how strong a human was, they could at most cultivate to the immortal sage realm. There were no stronger humans. After all, the entire universe was filled with the power of the evil god. Mere power was unable to withstand the corrosion of the evil god's power. This was the upper limit of the human race's lifespan. But now, there was actually a human who broke through the race's upper limit and reached the demigod level. He could be compared to the minions of the evil god. This was unbelievable. If they hadn't seen it with their own eyes, they wouldn't have believed that such a human could exist. It's said that a profession called the furnace sorcerer has appeared in the various worlds recently. They can control special flames that can easily kill a group of evil attribute creatures. Even the minions of the evil god like us have to retreat. If countless furnace sorcerers attack together, they can form a sea of fire. Even the minions of the evil god wouldn't dare to approach casually. Could this human be a furnace sorcerer? A demigod monster said in a deep voice. And if you think about it carefully, the flames in the crazy mountain range seem to be similar to the flames controlled by the furnace sorcerers. Could it be that these flames were created by this human? A demigod monster narrowed its eyes. If that's the case, it's interesting. He's just a puny human, but he can actually cause such a big trouble in the fallen god land. He must have some earth-shattering secret. Whether there's a secret or not, we can just capture him and torture him. No, it doesn't have to be that difficult. As long as I devour his soul, all his secrets will be revealed. He's just a human, but he has such great power. This is a great crime. It's unforgivable. We definitely can't let this human master power. He's just food. Is he trying to go against his superiors? Many demigod monsters were filled with murderous intent. They surrounded Xiaoping at the same time. Even though they all believed in different evil gods and were in different camps, and they usually killed each other, they still cooperated when facing a race like the human. No matter what, they had to capture this strange human first. They could feel that there must be a big secret on this human. Such a secret could probably threaten the rule of the evil gods. Their eyes were cold and murderous. They didn't even try to hide the murderous intent in the depths of their hearts. Suddenly, waves of extremely powerful territory power shrouded the space and time in all directions. Countless spaces were distorted under the influence of this power. Interesting. Hundreds of demigod monsters? How lucky. Xiaoping smiled. If he hadn't become a demigod, these demigod monsters might have been a little troublesome to deal with. Now, however, these demigod monsters were no match for him. To be honest, he didn't even know how strong he was now. Moreover, these demigod monsters were excellent food. After devouring the corpses of these demigod monsters, he would definitely be able to nurture a large number of life and death fruits. He didn't know how many demigod experts he could create. If he was in the modern universe, he wouldn't have the chance to find so many demigod experts. Only in a top universe like the evil god universe could he find so many demigods. Chapter 2883. Do it, kill him. In an instant, hundreds of demigod monsters attacked almost at the same time. They exploded with terrifying Diablo power, distorting the space-time in all directions. Moreover, the power in their bodies was extremely terrifying. It was different from the demigods in hell and the real universe. Their Diablo power was extremely corrosive, distorting, and infectious. Once it invaded the enemy's body, it could immediately corrode or even assimilate the enemy. This was the reason why the Diablo universe was successful in invading other universes. Their power was too corrosive to the living beings of other universes. It was simply dark energy that caused countless living beings to fall. Freeze! Xiaoping looked calmly at the group of demigod monsters and only said one word. Boom! In an instant, a terrifying world territory exploded from his body. No, it was no longer as simple as a world territory. It was simply the power of a world crushing down. Moreover, it was not just one world. It was the power of 9 worlds stacked together. It was not as simple as 1 plus 1. The power of such a world was increasing at a geometrical speed. Therefore, the impact was also terrifying. When such a world territory crushed down, the space-time within a radius of 1 billion light-years came to a standstill. All space-time stopped flowing. What? The eyes of the demigod monsters widened. At this moment they could only think. They could not use their bodies or the power in them at all. At this moment, they were completely controlled and could not move. Impossible. He is just a human. How can he be so powerful? The group of demigod monsters was filled with endless fear. They had never been so afraid in their lives. If the other party was in Diablo, it would be fine. However, this guy was just a weak human. He was just food. A mere food could make them freeze in an instant. They could not fight back at all. What kind of joke was this? They would not admit such a thing. However, regardless of whether they admitted it or not, Xiaoping had overwhelming power. These demigod monsters could not even use a bit of power. Ants! Xiaoping looked at the demigod monsters calmly. He stretched out his hand and grabbed lightly. Dong! In an instant, the bodies and souls of the hundreds of demigod-level monsters were crushed. It was as if their bodies had been forcefully crushed by a powerful nomological force. Such a way of dying was extremely tragic. In an instant, the ground was covered in the minced meat of the demigod monster, and the ground was covered in blood. Crash! With a wave of his hand, the demigod-level monster's flesh and blood were taken away and sent to the world tree for it to absorb. Immediately, a large number of fruits of life and death were quickly nurtured. This method was like plundering the source of the fiend god universe and pouring it into the real universe. Even if these demigod monsters did not have much origin, as long as they persisted, the evil god universe's origin would be greatly depleted, accelerating the evil god universe's collapse. There are demigod-level monsters? Xiaoping had planned to leave the fallen god land as soon as possible. However, the shockwaves from the battle earlier had attracted the attention of other demigod-level monsters. Many of them were flying in his direction. Human? There's actually a demigod human here? What's going on? There was clearly an intense battle here just now. Why did it suddenly disappear? That's right. There should be many evil god minions fighting here. Where did they go? This human is the only survivor here. Let's capture him and ask him about the situation. He's just a human. How dare he enter the fallen god land? This guy is weird. Devour his soul and find out his secrets. Many demigod-level monsters surrounded him with murderous intent. This time, there were more demigod-level monsters. There were 1,000 of them, which was 10 times more than before. They were obviously stronger. At this moment, this place was filled with demons and evil energy. All of you die. Xiaoping looked at the group of demigod-level monsters calmly without any fear. At his level, numbers were no longer a threat to him. Illusion, myriad worlds with a single thought. Rumble, in an instant, with his body as the center, strange and powerful illusionary shockwaves were generated. They instantly enveloped the bodies of thousands of demigod-level monsters. Such a silent soul shockwave invaded the deepest part of their souls, causing them to fall into 100,000 illusory worlds. Even though they were demigod-level monsters, they could not resist the stacking of 100,000 illusory worlds. They were dumbfounded and could not move at all. As expected, the power of illusions is too strong. Xiaoping was amazed. He realized that his illusionary power had grown to such a level that even demigod-level monsters could not resist the erosion of such illusory power. He could be considered a true grandmaster of illusions. Even in the modern universe, there was probably no living being that could compare to him in illusions. With just the power of illusions, he could easily control demigod-level life forms. As long as he was willing, he could easily change the memory of a demigod-level monster and make it think that he was a dog. Then the monster would always think that he was a dog and live like a dog. One should know what it meant to stack 100,000 illusory worlds. It was the memory of 100,000 worlds. Such a huge amount of memories could definitely destroy a demigod-level monster's soul if they attacked the sea of consciousness. A life's memory was very limited. If countless memories appeared in the depths of one sea of consciousness, one would be lost and would not know who one was. It was like the memories of 100,000 lives. 100,000 memories. Each memory was incomparably real. How could one distinguish which memory was the real one? If one could not tell, even a demigod-level monster would break down and become a complete lunatic. It was as if they had multiple personalities. That was how terrifying the power of illusions was. Whoosh, whoosh, whoosh. Xiaoping grabbed the 1,000 demigod-level monsters and threw them in front of the world tree. The world tree devoured the flesh and essence of the 1,000 demigod-level monsters. No matter how picky the world tree was, it was still a luxurious meal to be able to devour 1,000 demigod-level monsters. The world tree seemed to be excited. Whoosh! Not long after, the world tree nurtured 1,000 fruits of life and death. I've struck it rich. Xiaoping was very excited. He walked out of the fallen god land. He would capture and kill all the demigod-level monsters he encountered and refine them into fruits of life and death. For a moment, the periphery of the fallen god land was in a state of panic. Many demigod-level monsters had fallen. Chapter 2884. At that moment, Xiaoping came out of the fallen god land. Along the way, countless demigod-level monsters came to attack him. In the end, he killed 3,000 demigod-level monsters. Now, no demigod-level monsters dared to provoke him, so he left the fallen god land with ease. Whoosh! In an instant, he used the space-time wings, and a pair of transparent wings appeared on his back. They contained powerful space-time powers, and as they flapped, countless space-time turned into ripples. He seemed to have merged with the space-time of the universe, becoming one with it. His speed was unbelievably fast. It was as if the flow of time in his body was at a standstill, and all the void power was liquefied like seawater, producing a powerful driving force. Even the space-time powers enveloped his entire body, causing his aura to completely disappear. It was as if he was in a different dimension, and no existence could find any trace of him. In the time of a few breaths, he passed through dozens of worlds, and none of the evil god's spawns could discover that he had passed through their world. This was the power of the space-time wings. Not only could it control space-time powers, but it could also erase his aura, and even his sense of existence. No power could capture his body. The god of trickery should be in this great world. In just half a day, Xiaoping arrived at the world where the god of trickery was. He could sense that this world was bigger than the nearby worlds, and it contained rich origin energy. It seemed to be tainted with the strong aura of the evil god. Of course, there were more furnace wizards in this world, and they seemed to be scattered all over the world. In his senses, countless light spots covered every corner of the world, burning with scorching flames. Whoosh! Without hesitation, he used the space-time wings and instantly entered this great world. Ripples appeared on the world barrier, and no existence could discover that he had passed through the world barrier. Evil God Universe Leon Great World, a temple. At that moment, a large number of evil gods' spawns appeared in front of an altar in this temple. They were all kinds of strange-looking monsters, and their bodies emanated terrifying evil god power and dark force. It seemed that wherever they appeared, the surrounding laws would be distorted, and they would erode everything, causing countless creatures to fall. An old man with a scepter in his hand and a crown on his head stood at the very front like a priest. It seemed to indicate that the archbishop of this temple had supreme power. These monsters were all followers of the god of trickery. They were also the guardians and elders of this sect. All of them held high positions of power. Are the sacrifices and rituals ready? The archbishop asked. An elder stepped forward and said respectfully, Archbishop, everything is ready. In a few minutes, we can begin the ritual to summon the gods. Archbishop, isn't this a little inappropriate? Our Lord God is currently in a deep slumber. He instructed us not to wake him up unless there's something important. An elder said hesitantly, What's important? This is the most important thing right now. Those damn furnace wizards. I don't know where these rats came from, but they've already turned the world's order upside down. The archbishop roared. They have the power to kill us evil gods' spawns and weaken the power of fear. They even tried to kill us all. They want to rule this world, but we can't do anything about them. Isn't this the most important thing right now? He gripped his scepter tightly and was furious. In fact, when the furnace wizards first appeared, they didn't care about them at all. They were just mere humans. Their weak bodies couldn't even withstand a bit of the evil god's power. Even if they had great power in a short period of time, they would soon be eroded by the evil god's power and degenerate into monsters. Their souls would collapse and they would die. The so-called humans were just short-lived creatures that weren't worth mentioning. They would never be a match for the evil god's spawns. They would always be superior beings. However, they didn't expect the furnace wizards to be so terrifying. The destructive power of the flames they controlled was too great. Even a touch of it would burn them to ashes. Even if they were more terrifying than the furnace wizards, they would still be burned to death if they were careless. As the evil god's spawns, they could easily erode these weak beings. Even a bit of evil god's power was enough to make these weak humans go crazy. But the situation was the opposite. Instead, these humans had special powers. Just a bit of flame would be enough to heavily injure them. This kind of power posed a great threat to their existence. What scared them the most was that even if they killed the furnace wizards, they could still self-destruct. The terrifying power of the flames would turn the area, within a few 100 kilometers, into a sea of flames. All the evil creatures would be burned to ashes, leaving nothing behind. In this period of time, who knew how many evil gods' spawns and evil beings would die to this power? These flames wouldn't be extinguished. They seemed to absorb the energy of the universe, and would forever burn. However, these flames wouldn't harm the furnace wizards. This made the furnace wizards even more arrogant. They were even willing to perish together with their enemies, using the flames of their death to protect the other side. Indeed, these furnace wizards are too terrifying. They grow too fast. In just a few thousand years, they have covered the entire world. There are furnace wizards' fire seeds everywhere. One of the elders gnashed his teeth. Wherever they appear, there will be an inextinguishable flame. Any evil creatures that approach will be burned to ashes. Now our children can't eat humans anymore. They are all skin and bones. If this continues, our children will all starve to death. When the fire seeds on their bodies spread throughout the world, I'm afraid there won't be a place for us in the entire world. That's right. I don't know where these furnace wizards get their power from. They don't have any requirements. Any human can become a furnace wizard and control such terrifying power. They even eat us evil god followers and burn our flesh to obtain power. These bastards treat us evil god followers as food. They want to turn the world upside down. An elder hollered in rage. Originally, they treated the insignificant humans as food, consuming their fear and flesh as food. They were like crops, harvesting them every once in a while. But now the situation was the opposite. Instead, the humans were the ones hunting down evil god minions. What kind of joke was that? Sogu website. Immediately begin the sacrifice and awaken the gods. The archbishop said in a deep voice. Damn it, the furnace wizards are here. They're directly under the temple. Millions of furnace wizards are here. An elder couldn't help but yell. What? The faces of the temple elders turned green. Tens of thousands of furnace sorcerers had already died. And now millions of furnace sorcerers had appeared in this place. How could this be? Truthfully, if they failed, they would be burned to death. Even if they won and killed all the furnace wizards, The power of the flames produced after their deaths would be enough to burn the entire temple to ashes. All the elders would be burned to death. It was obvious that regardless of whether they won or lost, the odds were against them. This group of despicable and shameless humans. They must have received news that we are planning to awaken the Lord God. So they came here to stop us from offering sacrifices. An elder gritted his teeth. Impossible, awakening the God is our insider news. How would those humans know? Traitor, there must be a traitor among us and he leaked the information. That bunch of trash was captured and tortured, so they spilled all our secrets. A bunch of spineless people. The elders gritted their teeth in rage. Shut up. Now is not the time to push the blame. The archbishop hollered in rage. His face was dark and sunken. Stop them. Don't let them enter the temple. We definitely can't let them disturb our sacrifice. This sacrifice has to happen. As long as the God wakes up, they will all die. He was furious, but he was even more determined. In the past, they were the ones who hunted humans, killing them so much that they didn't dare to go out. But now these humans had actually blocked their way. When had they ever been so aggrieved, being attacked by weak humans? It was like the sky was flipping. Whoosh whoosh whoosh. Instantly, the temple elders clenched their fists and left the vicinity of the altar. They had to stop the millions of furnace wizards. They couldn't let them affect the sacrificial process. Lord God, wake up, we are facing a huge crisis. If we don't wake up, we will all die. The archbishop knelt on the ground and dripped his blood onto the altar. Then, he placed a large number of precious sacrificial items on the altar and activated the evil god's power. Rumble, in an instant the entire altar shook, the densely packed evil god runes flashing, as if communicating with an indescribably terrifying existence in the depths of the void. The entire temple rumbled and released endless light. A powerful god's power swept in all directions, shaking the entire Leon world. Suddenly, a figure appeared from the depths of the altar. It was wearing a black robe and looked like an old man. It was as thin as a match, and its eyes contained a sinister and cunning look. But it emitted a terrifying aura. It was like a prison. He's awake, he's finally awake. All the hall elders were extremely excited. Lake, why did you wake me up from my long slumber? If there's no major event to wake me up, all of you will definitely suffer the wrath of the god. The god of trickery's voice buzzed, containing terrifying god's power. It stared at the archbishop, obviously displeased that it was woken up. Moreover, it was still in the process of healing. It couldn't be disturbed, otherwise, it wouldn't be able to recover. Lord God, save us. Those humans are completely crazy. They want to kill us. They want to kill all of your believers. The archbishop cried, as if he could finally pour out his grievances. Humans? Kill all of you. The god of trickery was a little confused. He didn't know what these believers were talking about. Soga website. Chapter 2886. To be honest, the god of trickery could not be blamed for being a little confused. After all, in his memory, humans were merely food, ants that could be killed at any time. Furthermore, the vitality of humans was especially tenacious. Even if a batch of them died, as long as they were given a chance to recuperate, they would continue to reproduce and flourish again. However, that was all the impression he had of humans. After all, who would be interested in his own food? However, what did he hear now? Those humans had attacked his shrine, and his powerful dependents had no choice but to sacrifice food to wake him up from his slumber. They were even crying in front of him, scolding those humans for being completely crazy. If he was not the god of trickery, which meant he had some sense, and was not as hot-tempered as other evil gods, he would have eaten those joking dependents alive long ago. There are really humans attacking my shrine? In an instant, the god of trickery moved his mind, and the void within a radius of billions of light years was within the range of his soul perception. Millions of human warriors had appeared under his shrine. Furthermore, his followers and dependents were retreating in defeat. Many of the shrine elders had even died. Blood flowed like a river, and the scene was extremely tragic. He was dumbfounded. He did not expect to see such a scene after he woke up. The insignificant humans had actually formed a group and attacked his shrine. Furthermore, These humans were extremely savage and wanted to kill him. Were these humans crazy? Who exactly gave them the courage to do so? Did they not know how powerful a god was? Wait a minute, there's a strange power in their bodies. It's a special flame power, and it even contains a hint of divinity. Furthermore, it has a great restraining effect on the power of evil gods. Are they also dependents of some god? In an instant, the god of trickery's eyes shone brightly. He sensed that a huge conspiracy had shrouded over his head. As the god of trickery, he could not be more familiar with conspiracies. It was obvious that these humans were pawns. They had terrifying power bestowed upon them by a mysterious god, which was why they could so easily defeat his followers and dependents. That was why they possessed such terrifying power. Could it be that some kind of god is trying to test me to find out how the injuries on my body have become? At that moment, the god of trickery's expression darkened. Since young, he had always been the one plotting against others. There was no reason for others to plot against him. Now there was actually another evil god who dared to plot against him. This was simply looking down on him and slapping his own face. It believed that the god in the dark was definitely not a powerful being. If he was really strong enough, there was no need for him to use such a low-level trick. He could just kill him and crush him to death. There was no need to waste so much effort. Interesting. I want to see who wants to go against me, the god of schemes. After sleeping for so many years, there's actually an evil god that has forgotten my god name. The god of schemes? Thinking of this, the god of schemes sneered. Rumble, in an instant, with its body as the center, a powerful divine spirit domain appeared, enveloping the space-time of billions of light years. It seemed to contain the power of the great path laws, piercing through the heavens and earth. Suddenly, all the furnace wizards stopped in their tracks. They were all dumbstruck, as if they had turned into idiots. They could not move at all. They looked confused, as if they had forgotten what exactly they were here for. This was the power of the god of trickery, intelligence reduction. The god of trickery's intelligence was actually only average. It was neither too good nor too bad. It could only be considered average. The reason why it was called the god of trickery was because of its special power. In other words, although its intelligence was not comparable to others, it could drag the intelligence of smart people down to its own level, or even lower, turning smart people into normal people, turning normal people into idiots, turning idiots into idiots, and blinding the minds of living beings. This was the power of the god of trickery. However, this power was not omnipotent. It had a huge advantage against gods of the same level, and it could play tricks at will. However, this power could not affect powerful gods above the middle god tier. Therefore, it could only act like a tyrant among the lower gods. I'd like to see which god of evil gave these humans the power to deal with me. Don't let me find any traces of you, or I'll definitely kill you. How dare you bully me, the god of trickery? The god of trickery sneered. His powerful divine sense invaded the consciousness of each and every one of the humans, trying to search the memories in the depths of these human souls to find the mastermind. As expected of Lord God, he's too powerful. How dare these insignificant humans come looking for trouble with us? They really don't know what's good for them. Now it's settled. Seeing this scene, the Archbishop and the other God of Evil's followers were excited. As expected, when Lord God of Evil personally took action, these humans were as weak as ants. They were no match for him at all. All of them were determined, after this matter was over, they would slaughter all the furnace wizards and make this profession a thing of the past. They must not let the humans gain power. Otherwise, the power that the humans had would be a huge threat to them. At this moment, Xiaoping used the formless mask to hide his aura and figure. He hid in a corner of the temple and carefully observed the god of trickery who had suddenly appeared. I see. This is the power of the god of trickery, lower intelligence. It's really powerful. Xiaoping narrowed his eyes. Initially, he could not tell what the power of the god of trickery was. However, after spending a portion of the hatred crystal, he found out the power of the god of trickery through the system. It could only be said that the power of the system was too powerful and could understand everything. Even the god of evil could not hide from the power of the system. He also had a slight understanding of how the battle between the gods worked. It was important to understand the power of the opposing god. When one reached this level, the strength of one's divine power and power were no longer particularly important. Power was the foundation of everything. Sometimes, if one understood all the power of the opposing god, one could target and deal with the opposing god. Sometimes the power of a weak god just happened to restrain the opposing god, and one could easily kill the opposing god. The power of the god of trickery was indeed extraordinary. It could lower the intelligence of the enemy. If the enemy's intelligence was reduced to the level of a 3-year-old child, would he not be able to deceive them as he pleased? To a certain extent, this was a very powerful power. It depended on how one used it. It was no wonder that this god of trickery was famous among the many gods of evil. This power had indeed brought great benefits to the god of trickery, allowing him to succeed in every endeavor. Chapter 2887. System. Do you know how to kill a god? Even though Xiaoping knew how to deal with the god of trickery, he still hid nearby and did not choose to attack. After all, his opponent was a lower god. Even if he was seriously injured, he was still not a demigod. Moreover, it was publicly acknowledged that gods were difficult to kill. If this attack did not kill a god, and instead let the god of trickery escape, there would be endless trouble. Therefore, he had to make sure nothing went wrong this time. Because of this, he wanted to know the god's weakness. You need 1,000 hatred crystals. The system replied. Exchange. Xiaoping was not stingy at all. As long as he could kill a god, a mere 1,000 hatred crystals were nothing. Anyway, he could earn them back at any time. The reason why gods are difficult to kill is because of their divinity. As long as their divinity is not destroyed, gods will not die. The system said. Hearing this, Xiaoping could not help but nod. The divinity of a god was actually the crystallization of the Great Path laws. It was extremely hard, and even ordinary artifacts were not as hard as divinity. The soul of a god had already merged with the divinity, which was equivalent to the divinity being the strongest container, protecting the soul of a god in all aspects, thus making the soul of a god extremely safe. Even if the enemy wanted to attack the soul of a god, they would not be able to pass through the divinity and would be easily blocked. At the same time, a god's body was born with powerful divine power, containing the characteristics of immortality and indestructibility. It was many times stronger than a saint and close to immortality. Therefore, gods were difficult to kill. Even if they were seriously injured, they were not existences that a demigod could kill. In that case, how can a god be killed? Xiaoping asked. There are 2 ways. The first is to use super strength to shatter the divinity of the enemy god. Then you can kill the god. The system replied. The corner of Xiaoping's mouth twitched. If he had this strength, he would not need to ask the system. Of course, there is also a second way, which is to forcibly separate the soul of a god from the divinity. This way, the soul of a god can be directly destroyed, and the god will die. The system said. Separate the soul from the divinity. How can this be done? The soul of a god has long been merged with the divinity, just like the relationship between the meridians and flesh. Xiaoping felt that this kind of thing was almost impossible to do. To separate a god's soul from their divinity was many times more difficult than shattering their divinity. It's not impossible. Just like the golden crow of hell at its peak, its power, the soul shriek, could instantly strip the souls and godhoods of countless gods and devour them. The system replied. There are also a few ruling gods who are proficient in the art of illusion. They are able to cause weaker gods to fall into an inescapable illusion, forcing them to detach their own souls and divinity. Soul shriek? Could it be that I can also do this now? Xiaoping asked in surprise. No, the host's abilities are not enough. I'm afraid that the soul shriek's ability can only make the god of trickery fall into a state of dizziness for a second. It's not enough to strip the other party's god's soul. The system said. In other words, with my current strength, it would be impossible for me to kill a deity, even a lesser deity. Xiaoping was not too disappointed. After all, a demigod wanting to kill a lesser deity was something that had never happened before. Although it was just a difference of 1 level, It was the difference between heaven and earth, the difference between a mortal and a god. Countless invincible sages had been born in the modern universe, but until now, not a single god had been born. One could imagine how difficult it was. Therefore, with his current strength, it was only natural that he could not kill a lesser deity. It seemed that he could only retreat for the time being, and come back to kill the god of trickery in the future, when he was strong enough. No. Although the host is unable to kill a lesser deity with your current strength, the host has a treasure that can kill a lesser deity. It is the reincarnation pen. The system said. Reincarnation pen. Xia Ping's heart skipped a beat. The reincarnation pen is the most powerful artifact of the Lord of Hell. It is the key for the Lord of Hell to rule over countless demon gods. Its power is endless. Even if it is currently sealed, it can still explode with unimaginable power. Do you know what its first ability is? The system said. The first ability? I remember, it's soul snatching. Xia Ping's eyes lit up as if he had thought of something. Yes, it's soul snatching. This ability is extremely powerful. It is close to the rule and the authority of the gods. Even the gods can't resist such power. The system said. With the reincarnation pen, the Lord of Hell killed all the rebellious demon gods. Once the reincarnation pen appeared, even the demon gods would die. It would be useless to trace their souls and integrate them into the cycle of reincarnation. To be honest, you have a large amount of origin energy now. You can use it to unseal the 5 layers of the reincarnation pen and fully display the power of the artifact. It pointed out a bright path for Xia Ping. Yes, I only unsealed the first layer of the reincarnation pen. In fact, it still has 4 layers of origin energy. Moreover, I have an endless amount of origin energy now. Xia Ping couldn't help but nod. Previously in the Crazy Mountain Range, he had burned countless corpses of evil gods and obtained a large amount of origin energy. Moreover, he had countless dependents. These dependents burned those evil creatures to death and obtained a steady stream of origin energy. It was impossible for him to absorb such a large amount of origin energy alone. After all, even though he had the bloodline of the Golden Crow of Hell, there was a limit to the amount of origin energy he could absorb every day. In this way, he had accumulated a large amount of origin energy that he hadn't used. To be honest, it was a bit of a waste. I see. I understand now. Thinking of this, Xia Ping's eyes lit up. Of course, he didn't unseal the reincarnation pen. After all, once the reincarnation pen was unsealed, it would definitely cause a huge energy fluctuation. Moreover, according to the system, even if the reincarnation pen only unsealed the first layer of the reincarnation pen, it would be enough to extract the soul of the seriously injured god of intrigue from the godhead. Of course, this was also because the god of intrigue had been seriously injured in the War of Gods in the ancient times. His godhead had cracked, and he still hadn't recovered to this day. Because of this, the reincarnation pen could do it. If the god of intrigue hadn't been seriously injured, the reincarnation pen might not have been able to deal with the god of intrigue by unsealing the first layer of the reincarnation pen. However, no matter what, he finally had a way to deal with the lower god. Thinking of this, Xia Ping saw that the god of intrigue seemed to be focused on searching the souls of these furnace wizards to find the mastermind behind the scenes. With a shift of his mind, he immediately released the soul shriek and attacked the god of intrigue. Such an attack was extremely fast. Even the god of intrigue couldn't defend against it. Chapter 2888. At that moment, the god of conspiracy was searching souls. With the powerful soul power of a lower god, it easily invaded the soul of one of the furnace wizards. It tried to find the source of this power from the wizard's memory, as well as who the evil god behind it was. What? When it traced back to the source, it came to the depths of the furnace wizard's memories. It immediately saw a majestic figure emitting boundless divine might. It was like a giant bird burning with eternal undying flames. It was as if it could incinerate everything in its path. Just looking at this shadow made it feel like its soul was about to melt. A sovereign evil god. Without a doubt, this was the divine power that only a sovereign evil god could possess. Moreover, It was a top sovereign that could emit such an earth-shattering aura and power. Oh no! In an instant, because it had peeked into the deepest part of the golden crow of Hell's bloodline, the god of conspiracy suffered a huge backlash. A powerful divine power came crashing down on it. The god of conspiracy's expression changed drastically. It hurriedly retracted its soul, but it was too late. This powerful soul pressure violently hit its soul, causing it to shake violently. At this moment, it felt as if its soul, its internal organs, had been violently shaken. Its injuries, which were already serious, were now showing signs of worsening. How is this possible? There's a sovereign evil god behind it. But if the great sovereign wanted to deal with a lower god like me, he wouldn't need to waste so much energy. Why is this happening? The god of conspiracy was dumbfounded. Although it was called the god of conspiracy, its intelligence was only at the level of a normal person. It could not figure out why. Moreover, it had never seen a sovereign evil god with such terrifying flames. It was unheard of. Oh no, there's an enemy. At that moment, the god of trickery felt a great sense of danger. He seemed to have heard a sharp scream, and this scream contained a terrifying soul power. All the evil gods' dependents present could not withstand the power of this soul scream. They could not control their bodies at all. Their souls were directly taken out, and they were in a state of having their souls leave their bodies. All the evil gods' dependents screamed in fear. Although the god of intrigue's soul was protected by his divinity and was not deprived of his soul, he still suffered a heavy blow, which made him dizzy for a moment. For powerhouses of this level, a moment of dizziness was the difference between life and death. A chance. At this moment, Xia Ping, who had been hiding in the depths of the void, made his move. He saw that this was a great opportunity to take advantage of the god of trickery's dizzy state to kill him while he was down. Divine artifact, reincarnation pen. Rumble. He took out the reincarnation brush. This was the most powerful brush tip in the universe, containing the most powerful sharpness. It could divide yin and yang, sever karma, and determine reincarnation. After receiving Xia Ping's enormous origin energy, the reincarnation brush blossomed with endless radiance. Numerous hell runes appeared on its surface. It seemed as if every rune had come to life. Peerless divine ability soul hook. Xia Ping held the reincarnation brush and pointed it at the god of intrigue. Immediately, the tip of the reincarnation brush emitted waves of dim light. It seemed to contain the supreme power of the Great Path Law, or rather the power of rules. Suddenly, a terrifying chaotic vortex seemed to be formed at the tip of the reincarnation brush. Countless black hairs emerged from the depths of the brush tip. Each black hair extended out and seeped into the god of intrigue's divinity. No, no, no. What are you trying to do? The god of intrigue was filled with endless fear. He sensed that these black hairs were extremely terrifying. They seemed to be the threats of rules and contained terrifying divine power. Dong, the deepest part of the god of intrigue's divinity, was immediately penetrated by these black hairs. It seemed as if countless black hairs had tied up the soul in the depths of the divinity in an instant. Rumble. In the next second, the reincarnation brush gently drew a line and produced a terrifying power of karma. The god of intrigue's divine soul was pulled out from the divinity and pulled into the air. The god of intrigue was indeed a lower god. His soul energy was extremely huge. It looked like a blob of black ink that was extremely dense. It was like a pollutant that corroded the void of the universe. It was as if other living beings would completely fall into depravity as long as they came into contact with it. This was the divine soul unique to the evil gods. Damn it! Who are you? What have you done to me? The god of intrigue screamed in terror. He had never experienced something like this in his life. His soul that was originally hidden in the divinity was forcefully pulled out by someone else. What kind of joke was this? He had never seen such a strange and powerful force before. Without the protection of the power of the divinity, wouldn't his life be frozen in water? Hellfire Golden Crow Claw. Before the god of intrigue could figure it out, Xia Ping attacked instantly. He did not give the god of intrigue any chance to react at all. After all, his opponent was a lower god who possessed terrifying divine power. Once he reacted, he would definitely be severely injured. Therefore, He had to kill the god of intrigue before his opponent could react. Dong! A giant dark golden claw reached out from the depths of the void. It burned with the scorching hellfire golden crow claw, as if it was a giant claw from the deepest part of hell. It emitted terrifying divine power. Spare me, spare me, spare me. The god of trickery was terrified to the extreme. He sensed a fatal danger, but it was too late for him to dodge. The hell's golden crow claw was extremely fast. It was a claw that contained the power of space and time. By the time the god of trickery noticed the hell's golden crow claw, the claw had already arrived. Bang! Immediately, the god of intrigue's soul was caught by the hellfire golden crow claw. It was like a primordial ferocious bird catching its prey. The prey could not move at all. At the same time, the god of intrigue's soul began to burn with the terrifying dark golden flames from the hellfire golden crow claw. It seemed to be the best fuel in the world. Almost instantly, the god of intrigue did not know what was happening. The hellfire golden crow claw burned his soul. The god of intrigue let out a shrill scream that pierced through the void. However, he could not retaliate at all. It was as if he was suffering from intense pain. In just a second, the god of intrigue was burned to death by the hellfire golden crow claw. All that was left was wisps of black smoke, the god of intrigue's divinity, and his divine body. What an enormous amount of origin energy! Xia Ping was extremely excited at that moment. He realized that after he burned a lower god to death, he immediately obtained an enormous amount of origin energy. This energy flowed into the deepest part of his body, as if it was free. Meanwhile, his soul power, magic and bloodline power were increasing at a speed visible to the naked eye. Chapter 2889. However, the fact that Xia Ping was able to kill the god of trickery could be considered to have the right timing, location, and people. First of all, the god of trickery was already severely injured and in a weakened state. Compared to when he was at his peak, he was much weaker, so it was naturally easy to deal with him. Secondly, the god of trickery was not a god of evil who was good at fighting. When he was unprepared, the god of trickery did not even have time to use the power of his authority before he was killed. Lastly, there was the help of the reincarnation pen. Without the reincarnation pen, he probably would not have been able to break through the god of trickery's godhead, and he would not have been able to kill the god of trickery and refine his soul. Therefore, he was lucky to be able to kill the god of trickery. It could be considered a miracle that had never been seen before. It was too difficult for a demigod to kill a lower god. Lower gods were not just extremely difficult to kill. Apart from the use of their authority, they also had divine power. One wisp of divine power could destroy tens of thousands of wisps of magical power. The two powers were not on the same level at all. Moreover, divine power was very corrosive. Once it invaded a saint's body, it would definitely shatter the saint's body and soul. They would not be able to withstand it at all. But no matter what, he still managed to kill a low god without a hitch. This also gave Xia Ping a clearer understanding of the strength of the gods. At this moment, many of the evil god's minions also saw this scene, and they almost went crazy. It can't be, Lord God is dead? What kind of joke is this? What kind of joke is this? When the archbishop saw this, he went completely crazy and could not believe what was happening in front of him. One must know that this was an evil god, a supreme god. It was an immortal existence. Apart from gods, it was impossible to kill a god. And this guy who suddenly appeared was just a human, but he had actually killed their god in front of them. This was a god slaying. He was just a human, and he was just food. What ability did he have to kill a god? What a joke! He's dead, he's really dead. We no longer have any connection with Lord God, and we can no longer sense Lord God's will. The power that Lord God bestowed upon us is also rapidly weakening. Many of the evil god's minions felt endless panic. They had not expected this to happen. Their god had been killed by a human. Even if it was a sneak attack, the result was everything. In a real battle, it didn't matter if it was a head-on battle or a sneak attack. Winning was justice. Winning was everything. Moreover, this fellow was merely a human. Even if it was a sneak attack, he shouldn't have been able to kill a god. What was a god? It was an immortal, a supreme existence. That was why they were called gods. No matter how these puny humans attacked or ambushed the powerful gods, it was impossible to kill them. But now the god of trickery was really dead. He had fallen in front of them just like that. Where did this human come from? What kind of power does he grasp? How could he kill Lord God? All the evil god minions broke down and couldn't understand. Oh, these evil god minions don't seem to be dead yet. Let's burn them together then. Xiaoping glanced and saw the evil god family members. Although he had released a soul shriek when he was sneaking an attack on the god of intrigue just now, most of his attention was still on the god of intrigue. That was why he didn't start killing the evil god's minions. Now that the god of trickery was dead, he had some time to spare. Not good, this human even wants to kill us. Run out of this world immediately. Right, tell this to the other evil gods and tell them that a human heretic has risen up. Let them wake up and kill this bunch of humans. These humans are a huge threat to us, a huge threat. The many evil god minions couldn't help but scream in terror. After that, they knew that humans seemed to have an unbelievable power. They were so strong that they could even kill gods. This was a huge threat to the other evil god minions. But such a threat wasn't known by the other evil god minions and other evil beings. This was because they had been the overlords for too long. It was so long that they forgot that there were other beings in the universe that could threaten their status. If they didn't wipe out these furnace wizards, the entire evil god universe would be turned on its head. Even those high and mighty evil gods would be toppled from their thrones. Burn. Xiaoping looked calmly at the followers of the evil god, and just snapped his fingers. Instantly, all the bodies of the evil god minions started to burn. They weren't able to leave for even a second, and turned into top-grade fuel. In just a single breath, all of the evil god's minions died. They died without a complete corpse, and at the same time, they were refined into a huge amount of source energy that he absorbed. Let's go. Xiaoping waved his hand and took away the god of trickery's corpse, divinity, and many treasures. He then instantly left the temple. At that moment, the furnace wizards who were hit by the god of trickery's power woke up. They recovered their intelligence and could finally think. They looked around and were stunned. That was because the strong evil god minions were nowhere to be found. That terrifying god of trickery was nowhere to be found. It was as if all the threats had disappeared at that moment. What happened? Where are the evil god minions and the god of trickery? Where did they go? Many of the furnace wizards blinked their eyes. They were a little stunned. Victory came too easily. After all, they were already prepared to die before coming here. They were prepared to sacrifice themselves in order to get rid of this temple and the god of schemes. It's the furnace master, the great furnace master. I feel the aura of the master. The master personally killed the god of trickery. A strong furnace wizard leader shouted excitedly. It was obvious that he felt the aura of the golden crow of hell that Xiaoping left behind. Only the furnace master had this power. So the master did it. No wonder the god of trickery disappeared. The master has always been paying attention to us. With the master's protection, we will be successful. Haha, the god of trickery is dead. The temple monsters are dead too. This world belongs to us humans. Burn those detestable monsters to death, and offer them to the great furnace master. Many furnace wizards shouted excitedly. They had never been so excited and happy. At that moment, they burned the god of trickery to death. Humans were the overlords of this world. Those evil races that ate humans as food would all become history. Third sect leader. Chapter 2890. In the evil god universe, somewhere in the void. At this moment, Xiaoping had entered the world of the classic of mountains and seas. He had gained a lot this time. He had killed a lower god. Not only had he obtained the other party's corpse, but he had also obtained the other party's godhead, and even refined the other party's soul. It could be said that this was a great harvest, and he had obtained endless benefits. Godhead. Xiaoping held the godhead left by the god of trickery in his hand. It was hexagonal and looked like a crystal. The material was extremely hard. He knew that this was a crystallization of the great path laws. It was harder than ordinary divine artifacts. His divine senses penetrated it, and could sense that there was an endless aura of the great path in the depths of the godhead. It recorded the god of trickery's authority, intelligence reduction. This was not a simple authority. Under certain circumstances, it could play an incredible role. If he wanted to obtain the god of trickery's authority, he could just devour this godhead and inherit the other party's authority. However, this would completely limit his future development. He could only walk the path of the god of trickery. Any demigod with a bit of future would not be stupid enough to do this. Of course, some demigods without potential would naturally be willing. Otherwise, they would not have the chance to become gods. Therefore, the godhead was also a treasure that many demigods fought over. If it was before, Xiaoping could not obtain the god of trickery's authority without devouring his godhead. However, now that he had condensed the feathered serpent god's clone, he had obtained the feathered serpent god's unique authority, replication. With this ability, he could replicate most of the great path laws, and even the authority of gods. This was a heaven-defying talent and authority. Among so many gods so far, only the feathered serpent god had this talent. Replication. In an instant, Xiaoping immediately activated his feathered serpent god clone and activated the authority replication. Rumble in the next second, he sensed his soul power spreading out and forming a bubble that enveloped the god of intrigue's godhead in an instant. The powerful and mysterious authority power immediately analyzed the mysteries of the god of intrigue's godhead and copied all the information of the great Tao laws within the godhead. 5 great path laws. Xiaoping immediately sensed that the god of trickery's godhead contained 5 great path laws. They were all information of the great path laws related to intelligence reduction. Although one could become a low god by mastering one great Tao edict, not every low god could only master one great Tao edict. In fact, this was merely the most basic requirement to become a low god. A top-notch lower deity had mastered 9 great path laws, while a low-level lower deity had only mastered 1 great path law. A lower deity like the god of trickery was considered to be in the middle, neither good nor bad. Only by mastering the 10 great Tao laws could one achieve the power of a medium god. Is this the grand Tao law? Xiaoping's eyes lit up. By using the power of authority replication, he analyzed all the information of the great Tao laws in the godhead. He discovered that if sages comprehended the laws of heaven and earth and condensed them into runes of laws, then when gods comprehended the laws of the great path, they condensed countless runes of laws together and formed chains of the great path. In other words, only when countless law runes were gathered together could they form a great Tao. Therefore, the great path laws were much more powerful than ordinary laws. It was as if all the power was condensed together and underwent a qualitative transformation. Moreover, the power of the great path contained an extremely corrosive nature. It could easily control ordinary laws and command the world. It could even change the genes of life and purify blood. Under the shroud of the great path domain, other domains could not move or exert any power. As expected of the feathered serpent god's authority, it's really too powerful. Xiaoping was extremely excited. He sensed that the feathered serpent god's authority replication was definitely a nature-defying ability. This power was not as simple as just replicating the enemy's authority. Instead, it dissected all the mysteries of the other party's power. It knew what it was and why it was. Therefore, the feathered serpent god was so powerful. Not only did it copy all the power of other gods, but it could also surpass the original and derive even more powerful power. Often, the authority that the feathered serpent god controlled could exert more power than the original owner. This was because the feathered serpent god had a clearer understanding of the great path laws. This was a super powerful auxiliary ability that was even more powerful than those battle-type authority. To a certain extent, the feathered serpent god was actually a scholar-type god. By dissecting the power of other gods, he took the other party's power as his own and mastered it thoroughly. He could even surpass the original god. This was also why countless evil gods were so afraid of the feathered serpent god. They were willing to pay any price to kill the feathered serpent god. Otherwise, they would be finished. 5 great path laws. Xiaoping realized that in just half a day, the god of schemes godhead's 5 great path laws had been successfully replicated. They were completely integrated into the feathered serpent god's clone. Naturally, The authority within them was also grasped by the feathered serpent god's clone. At the same time, he was more familiar with the Great Path laws. It's not impossible for me to break through from demigod to higher god. Xiaoping clenched his fists. If it had been before, he would not have had such confidence. After all, it was not easy to comprehend the Great Path laws. However, with the feathered serpent god's authority, he could learn from others. As long as he could find enough godheads, he would be able to replicate a large number of Great Path laws from the godheads. Then, he would integrate these Great Path laws into each of his clones. After all, each clone was actually a person. If one clone understood, the other clones would naturally understand as well. The wisdom and cultivation experience between clones could be transmitted. He had a total of 9 clones. If his main body was included, it would be equivalent to 10 people. Each clone only needed to master 10 Great Path laws. When Xiaoping advanced from demigod to higher god, the 9 clones and his main body would merge into one. Then he would be able to instantly master hundreds of Great Path laws and advance to higher god. If each clone mastered 100 Great Path laws, then when all the clones merged, he would be able to master more than 1,000 Great Path laws. He might even be able to advance to Dominator God. Of course, this could only be achieved under ideal circumstances. The first problem was that there were not that many godheads in this universe that could be replicated and comprehended. After all, godheads were rather precious treasures. They were even more precious than divine artifacts. They were not that easy to obtain. Moreover, if he wanted to advance, he would need to accumulate a huge amount of origin energy. If he did not have enough origin energy, he would fail during the advancement process. If he failed once, he would no longer have the chance to advance. He could only be trapped in the demigod realm until he died. Therefore, he had to be extremely cautious when advancing to God realm. He could not attempt it easily. Chapter 2891. Looks like I need to expand the number of Golden Crow dependents. Xiaoping squinted. If he wanted to become a god, he needed to store enough origin energy. He couldn't do that in the modern universe. Only in the evil god universe would he be able to store enough energy. That way, the number of furnace wizards would increase. It would be best if every human in the evil god universe could become a furnace wizard and become the dependents of the Golden Crow. That would make him rich. The evil gods were in a state of hibernation, so they wouldn't sense anything. After all, it had only been a few thousand years. To the evil gods, a nap was nothing. When they woke up, the situation in the evil god universe would completely change. If he didn't succeed before the evil gods reacted, there would be trouble in the future. The increase in the number of furnace wizards would be greatly hindered. Of course, if this plan succeeded, he wouldn't need to be afraid of the evil gods. Every furnace wizard's body contained the infernal Golden Crow's flames. The more powerful the furnace wizard, the more terrifying the flame power within their body. When they were alive, they could sacrifice evil creatures and burn countless evil god minions to death. Even if they died, they could turn into the undying Golden Crow flames that burned forever. Even the evil gods couldn't easily extinguish them. If all the humans in the world became furnace wizards, then even the evil gods would be afraid of them. This was because they didn't dare to kill all the humans. Once the humans died, the entire world would be covered by the Golden Crow flames and become an eternal world of fire. It could be said that he was in an invincible position. The power of the Golden Crow would slowly eat away at the evil god universe until all the evil gods were completely devoured and killed. This was like what the evil gods had done to the hellish world. However, Xiaoping was using the humans of the evil god universe to deal with the evil gods, making them fight among themselves. This would weaken the evil god universe's origin energy and speed up its destruction. Luckily, my Golden Crow of Hell bloodline is stronger now, so I can create more furnace wizards. Xiaoping clenched his fists. At this moment, he had awakened 30 trillion Golden Crow cells. The Golden Crow bloodline was much stronger than before. Thanks to the increase in his bloodline power, countless furnace wizards discovered that the flames in their bodies had also become stronger. They could also condense more furnace seeds, allowing humans to produce more furnace wizards. If I want to carry out this plan, I'll need to increase my own strength. If an evil god's spawn awakens a lesser god, I'll need to have the strength to deal with those lesser gods. Xiaoping knew that in the evil god universe, those ruler evil gods, higher gods, middle gods, and other gods were all in a deep slumber. They were all severely injured. Even if the believers tried to awaken them, they might not succeed. Only those demigods whose injuries weren't as severe could be successfully awakened. It could be said that his opponents were most likely those awakened demigods. Of course, if he was unlucky and a mid-god awakened, he would escape. He would wait until he became stronger, before entering the fiend god universe, to harvest the origin energy. As for increasing my strength, it is not very reliable to increase my cultivation level. It seems that I can only unseal the reincarnation brush. Xiaoping had just advanced to the early demigod realm. It was impossible for him to advance too much in a short period of time. Otherwise, his foundation would be unstable. Since he could not increase his cultivation level, he could only focus on external objects. For example, the reincarnation brush and the Book of Karma were both extremely powerful divine weapons. Once the seal on them was unsealed, their power would erupt immediately. Moreover, he had accumulated enough origin energy. He should be able to unseal the reincarnation brush. Thinking of this, he immediately took out the reincarnation brush without hesitation. Rumble! In an instant, suns formed by origin energy gushed out from the depths of his sea of consciousness. They emitted a scorching aura, and the energy was extremely pure without any impurities. These suns of energy flowed into the reincarnation brush, as if they were free. At this moment, the reincarnation brush seemed to have come to life. It seemed to have its own consciousness. It crazily swallowed the origin energy of the universe. Xiaoping did not know how much origin energy the reincarnation brush had swallowed. He only knew that he had instilled all the origin energy into the reincarnation brush, leaving nothing behind. Anyway, as long as he unsealed the reincarnation brush, he could earn back all the origin energy. This was what it meant to do a good job with a good tool. This was the power of the reincarnation brush, a divine weapon. The origin energy seemed to form a tidal wave, and crazily attacked the 5 layers of seals in the depths of the reincarnation brush. Even though these seals were extremely powerful, they could not withstand such a huge impact of energy. Dong! 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 In an instant, the layers of seals in the reincarnation brush were torn apart, as if they were dry weeds and rotten wood. All the seals and runes were completely shattered. It was as if the reincarnation brush had pierced through the seals. The second layer of seals, the third layer of seals, the fourth layer of seals, and the fifth layer of seals. It was as if all 5 layers of seals had been opened at this moment. Rumble! Xiaoping sensed that all 5 layers of seals in the depths of the reincarnation brush had been unsealed. A terrifying aura of eternity, antiquity, chaos, reincarnation, life and death, destiny, and so on emanated from the reincarnation brush. The entire world of the classic of mountains and seas was shaking and countless laws were in disorder. After all, the classic of mountains and seas was only a supreme divine weapon. It could not withstand the power of a divine weapon, like the reincarnation brush. Whoosh! Without saying anything, Xiaoping's figure flashed, and immediately left the world of the classic of mountains and seas. The power of the reincarnation brush had torn the world of the classic of mountains and seas, causing this supreme divine weapon to be irreparably damaged. He directly came to a cosmic void. There was nothing around him, and no life came. It was extremely remote, so he did not need to worry about the reincarnation brush being discovered by other evil gods. Dense hell scriptures appeared on the body of the reincarnation brush. Every hell scripture seemed to come to life, shining with a dark golden light. It caused a huge vibration and a buzzing sound with the origin law. The tip of the brush contained infinite power of sharpness. It seemed that a gentle stroke could dissolve chaos, separate heaven and earth, separate yin and yang, and separate life and death. It seemed that this brush contained the supreme power of the great path law. In the next second, Xiaoping found that his soul easily merged with the reincarnation brush. He directly refined the reincarnation brush, and formed a spiritual connection with it. Immediately, he felt a huge amount of information coming from the depths of the reincarnation brush. It seemed to be about the various ways to use the reincarnation brush and its powerful abilities. Such information could only be obtained after becoming the owner of the reincarnation brush. Chapter 2892. The Reincarnation Brush. Xiaoping's eyes lit up. He had obtained too much information from the reincarnation brush. After opening the first seal, he obtained the first ability of the reincarnation brush, Soul Hook. With a gentle wave, he could draw out the enemy's soul from their body. After opening the second seal, he obtained the second ability, Life Steal. It could steal the enemy's life, or rather life energy. With the reincarnation brush, he was basically invincible. He could easily steal the enemy's life and then devour it. The more he fought, the stronger he became. Often, the enemy would die of old age or die of exhaustion without knowing it. After opening the third seal, he obtained the third ability, Reincarnation. This ability could draw out the 6 paths of reincarnation and seal the souls of enemies or allies in the Book of Karma. They would be trapped in the endless cycle of reincarnation, unable to escape. Once someone was in the Book of Life and Death, their life and death would no longer be under their control. This was an ability that came with the Book of Karma. After opening the fourth seal, he obtained the fourth ability, World Destruction. This was an unparalleled attack. The reincarnation brush shot out, tearing the endless void. It was like bringing about the end of the world, completely destroying everything. After opening the fifth seal, he obtained the fifth and final ability, Fate Change. This ability could change almost certain fates. It could change all the trajectories of fate, turning bad things into good things, and turning good things into super good things. It could be said that this ability already involved the laws of fate. Moreover, it was rarely used. Every time it was used, one had to be prepared to die. This was because the more powerful the changed fate, the greater the price one had to pay. As expected of a divine weapon, it's really powerful. Xiaoping clenched his fists, extremely excited. After completely unsealing, the reincarnation brush had shown its glory as a top divine weapon. It contained extremely terrifying abilities. Every one of them was almost close to the laws. With the reincarnation brush, he would be fearless even when facing a lower god at his peak. He could easily draw out the enemy's soul and kill the evil god. Right, there's also the Book of Karma. Xiaoping took out the Book of Karma. In fact, it wasn't just the reincarnation brush that had been unsealed. The Book of Karma had also been unsealed. It had recovered its peak power. This book contained densely packed karma grand Tao laws, and it emitted an unfathomable aura. At this moment, the name on the Book of Karma shone even more brilliantly, releasing golden radiance like a golden engraving, releasing an undying aura. Truth be told, the Book of Karma had become even more powerful. Any name that was recorded in the Book of Karma would have their souls returned to the Book of Karma after their deaths. The most important thing now is to turn every human into a furnace wizard. Even a baby can become a furnace wizard. That way, those evil gods will definitely die, and the entire evil god universe will fall into my hands. Xiaoping clenched his fists and his eyes shone brightly. Fortunately, the evil gods were in deep sleep and didn't notice Xiaoping's plan, which allowed his plan to proceed smoothly. If the evil gods found out that Xiaoping was digging up their foundations, they would probably fight Xiaoping to the death. Even if they chased him to the ends of the world, they would kill Xiaoping, this bad guy, completely. It could be said that Xiaoping's harm to the evil god universe was many times greater than feathered serpent gods. Of course, these evil gods didn't know about this as they were still in deep sleep. To the evil gods, sleeping for hundreds of thousands of years was too normal. A short few thousand years or 10,000 years was just a few minutes of rest. This was Xiaoping's chance. No matter how hard these evil gods thought, they wouldn't have expected such a huge change to happen in just a few thousand years. Once these evil gods woke up, they would probably realize that the entire universe had changed to a level that they weren't familiar with. Chapter 2893. In a blink of an eye, 10,000 years had passed in the heretic God universe. Although this amount of time was only about 3 months in the modern universe, to the heretic God universe, it was a true 10,000 years. In these 10,000 years, Xiaoping had traveled to nearly every world in the heretic God universe. He spared no effort in spreading the furnace seeds, causing countless humans to become furnace magi. And these first batch of furnace magi quickly spread the glory of the furnace lord. They took in a large number of disciples, and the disciples took in disciples without any reservations. As such, after hundreds of generations, nearly all the humans in the world have become furnace magi. They had the bloodline of the golden crow of hell in them, and became dependents of the golden crow of hell. This was like a plague spreading at a speed that far exceeded the imaginations of the heretic gods. Of course, not every human became a furnace magi. There were a few that did not, but compared to the entire human race, this number was a minority. It did not matter much. Due to the massive increase in furnace magi, many of the heretic gods' dependents felt threatened. They attempted to awaken their gods, but most of them were stopped by Xiaoping. He instantly killed the heretic gods' dependents, not giving them any chance to awaken their gods. Of course, a number of them succeeded, awakening dozens of low gods. Unfortunately, the appearance of these low gods was long known by Xiaoping. He laid an ambush ahead of time, and the moment they awakened, he brazenly attacked and instantly killed all the low gods, eliminating the scourge. As a result, he had an additional 50 to 60 divine sparks of low gods on him. He had devoured large amounts of Origin's energy. Therefore, the 10,000 years were considered a daunting experience without any mishaps. This allowed the Human Furnace Magi project to quickly proceed, allowing the furnace seeds to be spread on every human. It was not only limited to humans. Other non-human creatures could become furnace magi, as long as they were not dependents of the heretic god. As such, the increase in furnace magi far exceeded Xiaoping's imagination. At that moment, the Azurewood Great World was a human world in the heretic god universe. Human cities appeared in this world, and in every human city, there was an altar of the furnace lord that burned with inextinguishable flames. The flames soared into the sky and covered the entire city. A terrifying flame aura burned in all directions. One of the main cities was called Willow City. At the center of the city, many humans were offering sacrifices to the furnace lord. They were incomparably pious. They threw evil creatures into the furnace lord's altar, and they instantly burst into flames, turning into ashes and transforming into rich Origin energy. "Father, what are you doing?" a 3 to 4-year-old child asked curiously. "They're offering sacrifices to the furnace lord. It's because of the furnace lord that we humans have the space to survive," a middle-aged man at the side said in a deep voice. 10,000 years ago, we humans were in the Dark Age. We were forced into a corner by heretics, demons, evil spirits, and other creatures. They saw humans as food and human lives as worthless. Fortunately, the furnace lord appeared and gave us the power to resist these creatures of darkness. With the power of fire in our bodies, we can burn all evil creatures, so we finally have a chance to survive in this world. He was extremely emotional. If humans didn't live 10,000 years ago, they wouldn't be able to imagine how dark the lives of humans were. Living to 30 years old was already considered a long-lived species. 12 years old was considered an adult, and 13 years old had to marry and have children. The goal was to extend the lifespan of their race and increase their population. But now, with the power of fire, they can expel these evil creatures. With the power to resist, these evil creatures can no longer easily kill humans. In this world, humans finally have a place to stand. Furthermore, the lifespan of humans has been greatly extended, reaching hundreds or even thousands of years. It is said that some powerful furnace wizards have lived for over 10,000 years without dying. Do you see that flame? That's the furnace fire, an important flame that protects our city. As long as the furnace fire is not extinguished, no heretics or evil spirits will be able to enter our city. The middle-aged man pointed at the dark golden flame in the middle of the altar. The malevolent spirits, Evil spirits and evil worshippers that had killed countless humans could no longer be arrogant. Even if they had no physical form, they would immediately reveal their true forms once they were within the range of the furnace's flames. They would even be burned to ashes. This kind of furnace fire had become an important power for human cities. Every human city was built around the furnace fire. Some small towns and villages also had their own furnace fire, which could resist evil spirits to the greatest extent. Of course, outside the range of the furnace fire, the evil spirits and heretics are still very active, so the wild is still very dangerous for humans. Only the powerful furnace wizards can survive in the wild. "Father, look, there are so many babies!" The child cried out excitedly. He saw many mothers holding their children in their hands walk up to the altar. Then, they gently put the babies down and stood to the side. These are newborn babies. They came to the altar to receive the furnace seed's blessing. This way, they can become furnace wizards and avoid being harmed by other heretics. When you were born, you also came here to receive the furnace seed's blessing. The middle-aged man smiled. The furnace seed is very important to humans. It is like air, it cannot be lost. If the baby did not receive the furnace seed, once the heretics invaded them, they will die without a doubt. But if they have the furnace seed, their body will have an inextinguishable flame. Even if it is very weak, the heretics will not dare to invade them. This greatly increases the probability of survival. So after tens of thousands of years of development, all newborn humans will choose to receive the furnace seed's blessing and become furnace wizards. In fact, this is also one of the reasons why furnace wizards developed so quickly. They are all forced by the evil creatures of the outside world. If they do not do this, the death rate of weak humans is very high. Under the pressure of the outside world, humans naturally know which power they should choose. This is a bit like the end of a dynasty. Natural disasters and man-made disasters will cause people to lose their homes and starve to death. As long as someone calls for help, countless refugees will be absorbed, and the rotten dynasty will be overthrown. This is the situation. It is not that Xiaoping is too smart, but these evil gods are too oppressive towards humans. They are harvested like weeds, causing humans to rebel. It is fine if they cannot rebel, but once they have power, humans will drag the evil gods down from their altar. Third Gate Master. Chapter 2894. Just then a group of human elders walked over. All of them had bulging muscles and were extremely strong. Their bodies seemed to contain terrifying furnace flames. Each of them was dragging a powerful evil creature as they approached the altar. "Look, the elders are here." The group of people cried out in surprise. They recognized that these were the elders of Willow City. They were also the most powerful furnace wizards in the city, and they possessed supreme battle power. "What is this creature that the elders are dragging?" Someone asked curiously. "This is an evil god's minion, the famous Securotor star monster. It's a lord-level evil creature within 1,000,000 kilometers. I didn't expect it to be captured by the elders." Many people cried out in surprise. If a lord-class evil creature died nearby, the danger around them would be greatly reduced. People would be safer in the wild. "Haha, you little fellows are quite lucky this time." A gray-robed old man laughed out loud. He looked at the group of babies with a benevolent expression. "Sacrifice this Securotor star monster, and you'll definitely gain the favor of the Furnace Lord. When the time comes, you'll definitely be rewarded with a large number of powerful furnace seeds." Hearing this, many people became excited and incomparably joyful. The furnace seeds were also divided into different grades. Some were weak, and some were strong. Although this might not determine the future of humanity, it was undoubtedly an extremely high starting point, and had an innate advantage. It was like a 10,000-meter race. Everyone else was standing at the starting line, but some people had already run hundreds of meters. There was a huge gap from the start. If such a person in the lead also worked hard, then no matter how hard others tried, they would not be able to catch up. Therefore, obtaining a powerful furnace seed was something that they greatly desired. This matter also had a lot to do with the sacrificial items. "Stupid humans, let me go immediately. I'm the mighty evil god's minion. Do you know what the consequences will be if you kill me?" The mighty evil god won't let you off. All of you have to die. All of you have to die. Do you understand? The Securotor star monster roared furiously. It was extremely furious. It was extremely annoyed. It had never been so aggrieved in its entire life. 10,000 years ago, these humans were just weak food. They weren't a match for evil god minions like them. Countless human villages were like rice paddies that were hunted down by them. But after 10,000 years, everything changed. These humans possessed extremely great power and occupied one city after another. In turn, these humans actually began to hunt these evil creatures, capturing all of them and sacrificing them. The whole world had changed. It had become a little strange. Now, it was the evil creatures' turn to hide from these human powerhouses. If this was a dream, it wished it could wake up immediately. Won't let us go. You make it sound like you would have let us off 10,000 years ago. Do you think that if we let you off, the evil god's minions wouldn't hunt us humans? The gray-robed old man sneered in disdain. Hearing this, the star monster Secrotor was stunned and speechless. The so-called threat was to use the other party's most important thing, the most important bargaining chip, to threaten the other party. This way, the other party would compromise in order to avoid the most serious consequences. But no matter what the humans did, it would be the worst outcome. Thus, it was better to just kill these evil god minions. That way they could drag some of them down with them. Things were really obvious. Whether or not humans killed the evil god minions, if the evil gods found out about this, they wouldn't let them off. Since that was the case, they might as well just kill them. After so many years, not many evil gods woke up. Even if they did, they were burned to death by the furnace master. So they didn't fear their threats at all. Hong Long Long, as soon as he said that, the Secrotor was thrown into the altar by the gray-robed old man. Immediately, the infernal golden crow flames burned and devoured the flesh and blood of the Secrotor. Ah! Instantly, the star monster cried out in pain. Its body started to burn, and it was swallowed by the hell crow flames. It was burned to ashes. Walalab in the next second, the entire altar lit up, and countless dark golden spots of light appeared. That was the furnace seed. The furnace master has responded to our request, and granted us the furnace seed. Many human elders cried out in excitement. So. In the next second, the dark gold motes of light entered the babies on the altar. Immediately, the babies' bodies devoured all of the furnace seeds, and a powerful aura spread out from their bodies. The bunch of human elders couldn't help but stroke their white beards. They were really satisfied that humans could continue. At this moment, in another place, where the evil god minions gathered, their faces were dark and sunken. They were all different evil god minions, and couldn't stand on the same side in the past. But now, under the pressure of humans, they had no choice but to work together. Damn it, humans are getting more and more arrogant. Their hands are getting longer and longer, and they pretty much occupy the entire world. They forced us into a corner, and we don't have much space to live. We have to solve this problem, or else we will all die. Do you understand? One of the evil god minions shouted. The human-faced rat, terror hunter, and summerbug were captured and burned to death by the furnace wizards. Now, the Securotor star monster was also captured and burned to death as a sacrifice to the furnace lord. If we don't kill those furnace wizards, we won't be able to survive. Another evil god's follower gritted his teeth. To be honest, 10,000 years ago, they didn't expect such a thing to happen. They were just humans, weak creatures that weren't even worth mentioning. They were food for them to eat. But in the blink of an eye, in just 10,000 years, they actually grew to a level where all evil creatures were wary of them. They were actually forced into a corner. Honestly, if someone told them such a thing 10,000 years ago, they would definitely treat it as a joke. But such a joke had turned into reality, and they couldn't laugh at all. Now they weren't the ones who treated humans as food. Instead, humans treated them as food and fuel, capturing and killing evil creatures. Who knew how many evil creatures died in the hands of humans? After being captured, they were tied to pillars and burned alive to be sacrificed to the furnace master. Chapter 2895. Moreover, It isn't just our world. The same thing is happening in other worlds. One could say that all humans in the evil god universe have risen up. Those furnace wizards are born in a frenzy, and we are at a dead end. Even if we leave this world, the other worlds will be the same. An evil god said solemnly, and said the cruel truth. Their world wasn't an exception, and they weren't unique either. In truth, the furnace wizards had spread to every world and numerous humans had become furnace wizards. The evil beings of other worlds were also being killed, and had nowhere to go. The only thing we can do now is to awaken the gods. Not only do we have to awaken the lower gods, but we have to awaken the middle gods, higher gods, and even the ruler-level gods. Only then can we deal with the furnace master and the furnace wizards. An evil god clenched his fists and said his plan. In truth, so many of them gathered for this plan. Then, which evil god are you planning to awaken? An evil god asked. It's okay if we don't. But once we do, we have to awaken the strongest evil god. So we are planning to awaken the stupid Azathos, the god of darkness. An evil god said solemnly. What? God of darkness? Many of the evil god's pupils constricted. This god of darkness was one of the strongest ruler-level evil gods in the evil god universe. It was said that he grasped the endless darkness laws and had the ability to swallow everything. When he opened his eyes, numerous worlds would fall into darkness and shatter. Even the evil god's subordinates couldn't handle his vast power. So the gods sealed him and forced him to sleep. Otherwise, the weak universe wouldn't be able to handle his destruction. Now they actually wanted to awaken this god of darkness. Were they trying to destroy the world? Are you crazy? You actually want to awaken that existence. Even if you want to die, you don't want to bring us along? An evil god's subordinate scolded. He felt that his partner had gone mad. Although those furnace wizards were problematic, at most, they just compressed their living space and didn't want to destroy the world. But this god of darkness was different. He was obviously trying to destroy the world. Once awakened, not only would humans die, but so would all the evil beings. Don't worry, of course. We won't be so stupid as to awaken that existence and let everyone die together. We still want to live. In truth, there is a reason for this. The evil god's subordinate said solemnly. What reason? The other evil creatures asked. It's simple. Awakening other dominator rank evil gods requires too many sacrifices. The price isn't something we can afford. However, awakening the dark god is much simpler. The evil god said. In fact, we don't need to awaken it completely. As long as we awaken a bit of its power, the other evil gods will immediately wake up. After all, those evil gods who sealed the dark god definitely don't want to see the dark god wake up. They want to live too. So that's how it is. I understand your plan. You're planning to use the opportunity of awakening the god of darkness to awaken the other evil gods that are in deep sleep. That way, you'll achieve the effect of using little effort to achieve the same effect as Duo Gumino. Smart, really smart. We don't need to completely awaken this god of darkness. We just need to leak a bit of his aura, and it will be enough to alert those sleeping evil gods. Who knows how much effort and tribute we can save? Many evil god minions were enlightened and instantly understood their partner's true plan. It seems like you all understand my plan. Do you think it's feasible? The evil god's minion smiled. Of course it's feasible. I agree with this plan. But even if we awaken a bit of god of darkness aura, the price isn't something our world can bear. Don't worry about that. We're not the only ones who came up with this grand plan. The evil god's minions from billions of worlds are also participating in this plan. They all feel that the situation can't continue like this, which is why they're bleeding a lot this time, bringing out large amounts of sacrificial items. So many worlds are working together. No wonder you can come up with such a shocking plan. It is really an honor to be able to participate in such an operation. It seems like the luck of those furnace wizards has come to an end. Kiki, they are just mortals. How can they compare to the noble evil god? The evil god's minion discussed excitedly. At that moment, Xiaoping was in seclusion somewhere in the evil god universe. He didn't know about the shocking plan that the evil god's minion was planning. At that moment he was in a crucial cultivation state. A huge amount of source energy surged out from Xiaoping's body. This was the energy that numerous furnace wizards in the evil god universe sacrificed. Even a single furnace wizard could only sacrifice a small amount of source energy. However, many a little makes a mickle. Over the years, this kind of origin energy would be extremely vast and boundless. Dong. At this moment, Xiaoping's body trembled as a certain bottleneck within his body was broken through. Both his spiritual sense and magic power within his body experienced a huge improvement. The surface area of the 9 great worlds on his body had been further expanded, and the internal space of every cell had also expanded, allowing them to contain even more magic power. Middle Demigod Realm. After such a long period of cultivation, even if Xiaoping spent most of his time spreading the furnace seeds and didn't cultivate hard to condense his powers, his cultivation still improved by leaps and bounds. However, thanks to the huge amount of energy, his cultivation had improved by leaps and bounds, and he had advanced to the middle stage demigod realm. He felt that his powers and soul power had improved by a huge amount. His combat strength was much stronger too. I finally broke through. Xiaoping opened his eyes and they lit up. He felt that his soul power was so strong that it was terrifying. His consciousness range had expanded to 2 billion light years. At the same time, his illusion abilities had improved too. He could create 200,000 illusion worlds in an instant. When these worlds were stacked together, they would produce unbelievable power. However, the biggest benefit of this cultivation wasn't cultivation, but the Hell Golden Crow bloodline in his body. With the help of the huge source energy, the Hell Golden Crow cells in his body were awakening crazily. Previously, he had awakened 30 trillion Hell Golden Crow cells. Now he had awakened 60 trillion. This meant that he had awakened 60% of the Hell Golden Crow bloodline. With 40 trillion Hell Golden Crow cells left, he would be able to inherit the Hell Golden Crow bloodline. He would be able to control all of the Hell Golden Crow's power and bloodline abilities. He felt that the bloodline in his body had reached a shocking level. At the same time, the power of the flames in each furnace wizard's body had increased too. Chapter 2896. As expected, my plan to create furnace wizards has succeeded. Xiaoping opened his eyes, feeling very excited. He sensed that in the depths of his sea of consciousness, there were countless karmic lines. These were the lines of his infernal Golden Crow dependents. Through these karmic lines, he could constantly devour the huge amount of origin energy offered by the furnace wizards. Of course, such a huge amount of origin energy could not be completely devoured. He condensed the origin energy into energy stars and stored them for future breakthroughs. It could be said that he had spent tens of thousands of years spreading the furnace seeds, making all the humans in the Fiend God Universe furnace wizards. This had already laid a solid foundation for his plan. Even if the Fiend Gods woke up, they could not shake this foundation. Even if the Fiend Gods killed all the furnace wizards, their souls would return to the Book of Karma. They would not be devoured by the Fiend Gods at all. Instead, this would greatly damage the Fiend God Universe's origin energy, speeding up the universe's collapse. More importantly, after the furnace wizards died, they would turn into a sea of fire that would burn the entire world. It was as if they had sacrificed the entire world. At that time, not only would the furnace wizards die, but even the evil creatures and Fiend God's dependents would be buried with them. There would be no place for them to live. Therefore, the life and death of the furnace wizards had long been tied to the fate of this universe. If they lost all living beings and the entire world, then the entire Fiend God universe would collapse, resulting in the twilight of the gods. The Fiend Gods would immediately fall. If the Fiend Gods were smart, they would not kill the furnace wizards to vent their anger. Also, the divine sparks of these lesser gods have successfully replicated their authority and great Tao laws. Xiaoping smiled slightly. In these 10,000 years, he had obtained a total of 66 lesser god divine sparks. Each lesser god divine sparks contained several great Tao laws and grasped authority. He used feathered serpent god's authority to replicate all the lesser god divine sparks. Even if these divine sparks were not very useful, No one would complain about having too many divine sparks. At the same time, he successfully replicated these great Tao laws. Although some of the great Tao laws were duplicated, even so, with so many lesser God divine sparks, he still comprehended over 100 great Tao laws. The Quetzalcoatl's abilities had also been further enhanced. Of course, it didn't mean that one could directly become a high god after comprehending over 100 great Tao laws. If one wanted to condense a powerful godhood and condense authority, the power between the great Tao laws and the great Tao laws had to be fused. It had to be described with attributes. Only then could unimaginable divine power be born. If the attributes couldn't be fused, then it would only be a disorderly grand Tao law. It would be utterly impossible to fuse with each other. And naturally, it would be impossible to condense a powerful godhead. It was just like the knowledge of language and chemistry. Although they were both knowledge, they were obviously different subjects. How could they be compatible with each other? For example, there were countless types of elements in the world. When different elements were combined together, different substances would be born. Just like steel, it was actually an alloy of iron and C carbon, C silicon, Mn manganese, P phosphorus, S and a small number of other elements. Petroleum is a flammable oily liquid composed of hydrocarbons. Natural gas is composed of various gases, mainly composed of gaseous hydrocarbons. The combination of different elements would give rise to countless substances in the world. It was the same principle. If one wanted to comprehend the godhood of death, one had to comprehend the great Tao related to the great Tao law of death, such as massacre, destruction, darkness, curse, and so on. It was impossible to comprehend the great Tao laws of light, healing, salvation, and so on. If one wanted to comprehend the true demon god's authority, one had to comprehend the great Tao of illusion, great Tao of lie, great Tao of reality, great Tao of karma, great Tao of life, great Tao of death, and so on. Although there were 3,000 great Tao laws in the world, when different great Tao laws were arranged and combined, they would give rise to trillions of godhood powers. At that instant, Xiaoping's heart skipped a beat. It was as if he had a sudden impulse. Vaguely, many space-time scenes appeared in the depths of his consciousness. He felt that he had been surrounded by many evil gods. There were even sovereign-level evil gods that had personally attacked and killed him. But he had nowhere to run. Some powerful sovereign-level evil gods had personally attacked and destroyed his soul and body. Bang! In the next second, Xiaoping broke free from the illusion, and his eyes regained clarity. This is a scene from the future? Xiaoping's eyes lit up. He knew that this was definitely the passive effect of his bloodline divine ability, future foresight. The so-called passive effect was that if he foresaw that there would be a fatal crisis in the future, he would have a strong premonition and have a sudden impulse that would give him a warning. The active effect was that he would proactively foresee the future and see what would happen in the next few days. A fatal crisis? Xiaoping couldn't help but clench his fists. In the future scenes, countless evil gods had awakened. Although those evil gods couldn't find him at the start, as the sovereign-level evil gods awakened, they knew every corner of the evil god universe and easily found him. Chapter 2897. Hung Long Long. Just as Xiaoping left the evil god universe, the plan of the evil god dependents succeeded. As they wanted to unseal the dark god, they leaked out a bit of his aura and woke up many of the sleeping evil gods. Even though they were in a state of recovery, this was a matter of life and death. They had no choice but to interrupt their slumber and wake up from their slumber. Even some ruler-level evil gods woke up. Wave after wave of strong evil god power shook the entire evil god universe. It was as though all the great Tao laws had come to life, forming countless great Tao laws chains that sealed the entire evil god universe. Fortunately, Xiaoping had escaped in time. Otherwise, it wouldn't be so easy for him to leave the evil god universe. Who is it? Who is so daring to actually awaken the dark god? One by one, the evil gods woke up in a rage. Their powerful spiritual force surged through the entire evil god universe, forming a terrifying mental storm. The evil god dependents who were holding the ceremony couldn't withstand such a mental attack. In an instant they turned into idiots. Their bodies were corroded by the evil god's power. They twisted and shattered, turning into countless pieces of flesh and blood. Respected gods, you have finally awakened. We didn't want to awaken the dark god, but to awaken all of you. The evil god dependents who participated in the ceremony knelt on the ground and cried. Sensing that the evil gods had awakened, they weren't afraid at all. Instead, they were overjoyed, because after paying such a huge price and putting in so much effort, they had finally succeeded. In the depths of the dark void, many distorted evil god shadows appeared. They couldn't be described, looked at directly, and couldn't be named. They twisted the chaotic void and emitted an aura and power that could corrode everything. These evil gods sensed that the altar was filled with their believers who were loyal to them. Therefore, they calmed down instantly and suppressed their strength to the greatest extent. They didn't want to leak out a bit of their aura and cause the death of all their believers. What is going on? One of the evil gods asked. As gods, they naturally weren't fools. Although they had just awakened and were a little muddle-headed, they could indeed sense that the entire universe was filled with an inauspicious aura. It was different from before. This made their hearts palpitate, as if a great disaster was about to befall them. It's like this. More than 10,000 years ago, a god suddenly appeared. He called himself the Furnace Master, and gave countless humans the power to kill evil creatures, allowing humans to control great power. Since then, the entire universe has undergone a huge change. In the countless worlds, we, the evil god's minions, lost a lot of territory and a lot of living space. That's right. Those humans who have obtained power call themselves the Furnace Wizards. If he wasn't among the evil gods, one would think that he was another god, and not an evil god. However, its pair of deep and terrifying black eyes betrayed its identity as an evil god. When they heard this, all the evil gods became solemn. That was because the ruler-level evil god who spoke was called Fate Evil God. He was said to have grasped the power of fate, and could control the fates of all living beings. The dark book in his hands was called the Book of Fate. It was a chief god artifact, and it recorded the fates of all living beings in the evil god universe. Although he was Fate Evil God, he was an extremely evil existence. What he loved to do was destroy fate. For example, he would personally cripple a genius that was bound to rise. He would personally cripple his talent and make him a beggar. He would only be able to beg on the streets for his entire life. Then, he would enjoy the despair and pain of that genius life. For a certain child of destiny, who had a series of fortuitous encounters, it would snatch all of the other party's opportunities in advance, causing the other party to fade into obscurity, or even become destitute and dejected. Then, it would tell the other party of their original fate, enjoying the other party's anger, grievance, and hatred. He was such an evil god. He loved to see the expressions of despair of all living beings. He loved to destroy the predetermined fate, and make all living beings fall into pain. One could say that he definitely wouldn't bring any benefits. When he appeared, he would bring despair to all living beings. Even the evil gods were the same. Chapter 2898. But no matter how evil Fate Evil God was, how disgusting, how annoying, how many evil gods couldn't deny how strong he was. When they killed Feathered Serpent God, that trap was set up by Fate Evil God. If Fate Evil God didn't act and blinded Feathered Serpent God's perception of fate, Feathered Serpent God wouldn't have fallen for that trap. So one could imagine how terrifying Fate Evil God was. Even among the ruler-level evil gods, he was a special existence. Therefore, the words of the evil god of fate carried a lot of weight. Not an evil god? What does that mean? An evil god asked. It means exactly what it means. He isn't even a life form from our evil god universe. He broke free from the Book of Fate's tracking and blinded fate's perception. He jumped out of the restraints of fate, and is a variable of fate. Fate Evil God's eyes lit up, and he seemed really excited. Not a life form from our evil god universe? Is he a god from another universe? How dare you invade our evil god cosmos? Hearing this, many evil gods flew into a rage. They were practically going crazy. It had always been them invading other universes. When had there ever been gods from other universes invading their own universe? This was really the first time. All of them were angry from embarrassment. No, he isn't a god either. He's just a half-god. But he used some special methods to deceive the universe's source laws, so that he can live freely in the evil god universe. Fate Evil God clenched his fists. He was getting more and more interested in this furnace master, because someone like him, who could jump out of the restraints of fate, was really special. If he could steal his power, he would definitely be able to improve and reach the unprecedented god realm. Impossible. What method can deceive the universe's source laws? Moreover, he's just a half-god. What kind of half-god has such terrifying methods? The bunch of evil gods couldn't believe it. Even if Fate Evil God was a ruler-level god, his words were too unbelievable. Even a ruler-level god couldn't break free from the universe's source laws, let alone a half-god. This is the explanation and conjecture given by the Book of Fate. Whether it's true or not, we just have to capture that furnace master. Evil God Fate cackled. It looked at the evil god next to it. It was the key of the gate Yog-Sothoth. He knew everything about time and space, and was the key to the Silver Gate. At the same time, he was the strongest god in tracking enemies. No god could escape his pursuit. Any existence that left a trace in time and space would be tracked down by Yog-Sothoth. There was no way to escape. There's no way to track it. The Furnace Master has already left the evil god universe. Yog-Sothoth squinted his eyes. He seemed to have seen through the mysteries of space and time. He tried to track the Furnace Lord's presence from the river of time and space, but the trace was cut off. Because the chaotic airflow had shattered all traces of space-time. Even with its ability, it could not track other existences across the vast chaotic space-time. Left. How did you leave? When did you leave? The evil god of fate was stunned, because this was out of his expectations. Right before we woke up, it left through the space-time tunnel we opened. That Furnace Lord might be a creature from the Hell World. Yog-Sothoth stated his conjecture. He found that the Furnace Lord left through the space-time tunnel leading to the Hell World. The trace was cut off at that moment. The Hell World? Could it be that the Hell World gave birth to an unimaginable being? It's not impossible. It's said that the infernal world itself is an extremely powerful universe. In the previous universe epoch, the infernal world had lived 9 lives, which is practically unprecedented since ancient times. It gave birth to a large number of demonic gods. If it wasn't for the war between the Hell World and another universe of the same level, where countless demonic lords fought, the Hell World might not have been destroyed. It might even have lived 10 lives. But there are no ifs. In the end, the Hell World was destroyed and all the demonic lords died. Even so, there are still countless demonic lord ruins left in the Hell World. There are still large amounts of demonic lord treasures left from the last universe era. That's right. Even after such a long time, we still don't understand most of the mysteries of the Hell World. It's a pity that us evil gods are greatly suppressed when we enter the Hell World. Otherwise, we would have entered directly instead of relying on the void monsters we created to slowly plunder. It really is a super universe. I didn't expect that after being plundered for so long, it would still give birth to such a terrifying being. It even counter-invaded, bringing huge problems to our evil god universe. Many evil gods squinted their eyes. They didn't know much about the history of the Hell World. After all, it was something that happened in the last universe era. The reason they knew a little was because the history of the Hell World was too glorious. Even other universes had stories about the Hell World. Therefore, when they found the infernal world, they were overjoyed. This was simply an eternal opportunity. However, at the same time, they were afraid that there were still some ancient beings left in this universe. So they didn't dare to make a big fuss. They carefully plundered to avoid provoking any forbidden beings. If it is a half-god from the Hell World, then it is problematic. We can't head there to find him. Our strength can't be used there, and we will be suppressed. An evil god said solemnly. Let's not talk about that. Let's deal with these furnace wizards. We can't let this furnace lord bring such huge problems to our evil god universe and destroy the order that we have maintained for so many years. Chapter 2899. Using our evil god's power as fuel? What a joke! How can there be such an evil power in the world, such an evil being? Many of the evil gods' expressions changed. Truthfully, their evil gods had a huge advantage in the past. No matter which universe they went to, they were able to easily corrupt other living beings and cause them to fall. Now there were actually living beings that used their evil gods as food, using their power as fuel. They could even swallow their power to become strong. Wasn't this the natural bane of evil gods? To evil gods, this was the most evil being in the world, and they couldn't let it live. Kill these furnace wizards, kill them all. We can't let them continue to exist. An evil god hollered in rage. Impossible, pretty much all humans have become furnace wizards. If we kill them all, that would be the same as killing all humans. An evil god shook his head. So what? As long as there are some humans left, after a long time, they can give birth to more humans. They are still healthy food. Furnace wizards are just food that has gone bad and shouldn't exist. Some evil gods were filled with killing intent. To evil gods, if there was a need, they wouldn't care even if they killed all humans. As long as some humans survived and could reproduce, that was enough. Anyway, they had a long lifespan, and as time went on, after billions of eras, these humans would reproduce in this universe and continue to increase in numbers. So killing most of them wasn't much. Instead, it was a good choice. Wiping out the world was the best way to clear out the furnace wizards. Okay, I will wipe out the humans in a few worlds. They are just food, and they actually dare to occupy our evil god world. They are just asking to die. An evil god laughed coldly. Wait. Fate evil god wanted to stop him, but it was already too late. The violent evil god immediately attacked. It arrived in a large world and looked down from above. Its expression was cold as it attacked right away. Hung long long, in an instant, an extremely powerful divine power swept through the entire great world. Suddenly, all the humans in this world could not even say a word before they were all shocked to death. In fact, these humans didn't even feel any pain, because they died too quickly. Haha, foolish humans. So what if you've obtained power? You actually became a snitch for the sake of power, willing to be a hired thug for other cosmic life forms. You're simply courting death. The evil god laughed coldly, but in the next second, his expression changed and his hair stood on end. This was because when these humans died, the furnace seeds in their bodies immediately exploded. Each furnace seed was like a small sun, containing powerful star energy. The more powerful a human was, the more energy they had. All the humans in this world died. The furnace seeds in their bodies all exploded. It was like countless small suns exploding at the same time. It was easy to imagine exactly how terrifying the destructive power would be. Rumble. In an instant, the entire world was covered by countless rays of dark golden light, as if it had been pierced through by the endless light. At the same time, extremely terrifying infernal golden crow flames erupted, engulfing the entire world. That evil god didn't expect this at all, and couldn't react in time. His body was engulfed by the infernal golden crow flames and swallowed. Ah, save me, save me, save me! That evil god let out a tragic cry. It was even more tragic than a pig being slaughtered. His body was covered in infernal golden crow flames, and every inch of his flesh and blood started to burn. That was because the strength of the infernal golden crow flames was too terrifying. Even if it was a divinity formed from law crystals, it started to melt under the power of the flames. All of a sudden, this evil god was filled with the fear of death, and he kept begging for help. Don't save him, he's beyond saving. Evil god Fate said calmly. Beyond saving? All the evil god's hair stood on end, as they looked at the evil god covered in flames and fear. Fortunately, they weren't so rash, otherwise they would have ended up like that evil god. In just a few breaths, this evil god was burned to death, and even his divinity melted. Boundless dark golden flames spread throughout the world. All the evil creatures were burned to ashes at that moment. The entire world was set ablaze. At this moment, the world seemed to have been forcibly transformed into a huge dark golden sun. It was burning fiercely, as if it was an eternal sun in the void of the universe. What's going on? The evil gods' mouths were agape, and they didn't know what had happened. I told you to wait, so just wait. Why were you so impatient? Even if you want to die, you shouldn't do it like this. Evil god Fate cackled and revealed a gloating smile. Even if they were from the same universe, it didn't mean they were friends. In fact, evil gods were all cold-hearted, and even if all the evil gods around them died, they wouldn't shed a single tear. The reason why they were so worried was because they were afraid that they would follow in the same footsteps. Evil god Fate, why did this happen? Gate Kiyogsathith asked. It's very simple. These furnace wizards are actually little human-shaped suns. They contain a terrifying furnace energy. If they're still alive, it'll be fine. But once they die, they'll immediately activate the furnace seed's energy inside them. In an instant, they'll explode with a powerful immortal flame. Any creature that gets close to them will be burned alive. The eyes of the evil god of Fate shone with a cold glint. Just now, that guy killed all the humans in an instant. Countless furnace seeds erupted with terrifying destructive power and flame power. Such power is enough to easily burn a lesser god to death. Of course, that's not the most important thing. If they're careful, even a lower god can avoid it. It's just that that guy didn't pay attention and died. Hearing this, many of the evil gods heaved a sigh of relief. If they killed all the humans, they would die with them. Then they wouldn't dare to touch the humans anymore. But don't think that's good. Instead, it's worse. Evil god Fate's face was very ugly. When these humans die, the fire in their bodies won't go out. It's still burning the entire world, and turning it into an eternal sun. Every living being in this world will die with the humans. In other words, killing these humans is the same as destroying the world. Although he didn't personally take action, he was more than 1,000,000,000,000 times more sinister than the feathered serpent god. That bastard was planning to dig up their roots and use the evil god universe's people to deal with the evil god universe. So what if he killed all those humans? The evil god universe's strength would be lost. No matter what, that damn furnace master didn't suffer any losses. Instead, he gained huge benefits and was in an invincible position. Capture him. We must capture that furnace master. We can't let that bastard get carried away. We can't let his plan succeed. If not, all of us will die. An evil god hollered in rage. No matter how strong the other evil gods were, they all sensed the danger of death. If this continued, the evil god universe wouldn't be able to live a second life. When the time came, all of them would die. All the evil gods would fall. You make it sound better than singing. That bastard has long run back to Hell World. How can we kill him? Another evil god gritted his teeth and said. Chapter 2901. The evil gods were silent. It was as that evil god had said. They might look strong in the evil god universe, but if they headed to Hell World, they would be suppressed by Hell World's source. Even if they were ruler-level evil gods, once they entered Hell World, their strength would fall to half-god level. If they were half-god level beings, then entering Hell World wouldn't be seeking revenge, but asking for death. Instead, they would be killed by the Furnace Lord. What about the void monsters we created? There are so many of them, and they can't be killed. Can we get them to kill the Furnace Lord? An evil god asked. Stop dreaming. I just received news that our army in Hell World suffered heavy losses. Half of the void monsters were burned to death, and now they are hiding and don't dare to leave the base. An evil god clenched his fist. I wasn't sure who did this before, but now it seems like it must be the work of the Furnace Master. Only the Furnace Master has the power to burn the void monsters to death. It immediately understood a lot of truths. What? The evil gods were frustrated. If the void monsters couldn't kill the Furnace Lord, then even if they personally attacked, they wouldn't be able to kill the Furnace Lord. Due to the suppression of Hell's source, even if they entered Hell World, they wouldn't be able to use much strength. They weren't much weaker than the void monsters. So based on the current situation, they couldn't do anything to the Furnace Lord. Even if we can't kill him, we have to. To solve this, we have to kill the Furnace Lord. The evil god of fate roared. Only by getting rid of the Furnace Lord will the Furnace Wizards lose all their power. Only then will they no longer be a threat to our universe. And only then will they not speed up the destruction of the universe. He had thought it through. Even if he killed all the Furnace Wizards, he wouldn't be able to solve this problem. Instead, he would kill 800 and kill 1,000. No, he would kill all his own people while the enemy would be unharmed. Instead, he might even gain huge benefits. So, the only way to solve this was to kill the Furnace Lord. Only then could he save the evil god universe. The other evil gods weren't fools and naturally knew this. Of course we know that. But we have no way to kill the Furnace Lord right now. The infernal world is the territory of the demons. We are helpless. One of the evil gods spread his hands and said helplessly, even if they possessed power that far surpassed the Furnace Lord, it was useless if they couldn't unleash it. No, it's not like there's no way. At that moment Yog-Sothoth, the key of the door, spoke. What is it? Many evil gods looked over. It's simple. Speed up the evolution of the origin of hell, so that they can give birth to new demon gods as soon as possible. Yog-Sothoth, the key of the gate, said in a deep voice as he explained his plan. Are you kidding me? Speeding up the evolution of the infernal realm? Isn't that the same as helping the enemy become stronger? And let them give birth to a new fiend celestial? Are you saying that our enemies aren't strong enough? Some evil gods thought that Yog-Sothoth, the key of the gate, had gone mad. No, I understand what Yog-Sothoth is trying to say. The eyes of the evil god of fate shone brightly. Although speeding up the evolution of the infernal realm will cause countless demons to evolve, and even some demigod demons will ascend to the divine realm, becoming lesser gods, intermediate gods, and even greater gods. But by the same logic, the suppression of the infernal realm on us evil gods will be weakened to the point that we can enter the infernal realm. I see. Hearing this, the eyes of the evil gods lit up, and they were enlightened. In truth, the suppression of the universe's origin on outsiders wasn't constant. As the universe's origin got stronger, the restrictions on outsiders would loosen. Just like a developing country in China, if it became a developed country, then the restrictions on outsiders would loosen. They wouldn't need outsiders to pose any threat to their country. Same logic. After the universe's origin evolved, the natives of the universe would become stronger. Then the restrictions on outsiders would loosen as well. Before, only demigods could enter, but after the evolution, low, middle, and even high gods would be able to enter. Evil gods like them could take the chance to enter the infernal realm. Originally, according to the universe's development, as time goes on, the universe's origin will become stronger. Then, the natives will also become stronger and more gods will be born. Evil god of fate laughed coldly. But now, we are trying to speed up the evolution of the infernal realm's origin, and let it evolve to the point where a fiend celestial can advance. But due to the lack of time, even with such a good environment, they won't be able to give birth to many fiend celestials. They won't be able to match the number of evil gods in our universe. This way, due to the lack of time, the infernal realm will only give birth to a few fiend celestials. But we can send hundreds, thousands, or even tens of thousands of fiend celestials to beat up the furnace master. It would be strange if he didn't die. Then, we can take over the entire infernal realm. He clenched his fists, killing intent surging. He could almost see the furnace master's head being cut off. Not bad, this plan isn't bad. Many evil gods couldn't help but nod and agree with this plan. The problem is that there aren't many treasures that can speed up the evolution of the universe's origin. Each one is priceless. Even Dominator-level evil gods might not be willing to take it out. An evil god said solemnly, "Don't worry, since I suggested this plan naturally, I have to bleed a little." Evil god of fate said calmly. Chapter 2902. Hell World. At this time, Xiaoping had already silently returned to Hell World. Beep beep. At this moment the system's voice sounded. "Congratulations, host. You have attracted the hatred of a large number of evil gods, evil god minions, and evil creatures. You have obtained a large amount of hatred. Currently, the host has a total of 200,000 hatred crystals. I hope you can continue to work hard. What? Hearing this, Xiaoping's eyes widened, revealing an unimaginable shock. He didn't expect that the number of hatred crystals he had reached 200,000. One had to know that his total hatred crystals were only 18,000, and he had even used some in the middle. But now, it had soared to 200,000 hatred crystals. It had increased by more than 100,000. He couldn't imagine how much hatred he had attracted this time. In fact, Xiaoping had underestimated what he had done in the evil god universe this time. He had become the furnace master, and turned all humans into furnace wizards, allowing humans to have the power to burn evil creatures to death. It was easy to imagine that such a method was basically to exterminate all evil creatures, driving them down from the top of the food chain, and making them unable to kill humans at will. To the evil gods, Xiaoping's method was to cut off their foundation. He was planning to kill them and destroy the entire evil god universe. He didn't know how much hatred there was. If Xiaoping hadn't run fast enough and returned to Hell World in time, he would have been caught and killed by the evil gods long ago. They wouldn't have given Xiaoping a chance to leave the evil god universe. So it was only natural that he had so many hatred crystals. By the way, I have 200,000 hatred crystals on me. Doesn't that mean I can get a big gift from the system? Xiaoping's heart skipped a beat as he remembered the big gift from the system. After reaching 100,000 hatred crystals, he would receive a gift from the system. Obviously, he had met the requirements of the system. Beep beep, the system's voice sounded again. Congratulations, host, for reaching 200,000 hatred crystals. The system will give the host a big gift. Please check and receive it as soon as possible. Rumble. In the next second, the void split open, and a millstone descended, emitting a world-destroying might. It seemed to have wiped out the endless origin laws of the universe and shattered all the karma lines. A terrifying chaotic airflow emanated from its body. It was simply capable of destroying all matter and contained terrifying power. The moment it appeared, all the laws of time and space within a radius of billions of light years came to a standstill. Even energy could not flow at this moment, and was completely frozen. Crash! At once, a tremendous amount of information surged out of the millstone and was instilled in Xiaoping's sea of consciousness. He immediately understood what it was. This was the divine weapon, the Six Paths Millstone. Without a doubt, this was one of the most important parts of the Six Paths reincarnation. It contained the power of the Six Paths, including the Azura Path, Human Path, Heaven Path, Hell Path, Hungry Ghost Path, Animal Path, etc. This divine weapon was incredibly powerful. With the Six Paths grindstone, it was able to destroy the endless source of laws. The power of the Six Paths permeated the air and turned everything into nothingness. Of course, the most important function of this divine artifact was not to fight, but to transform the flesh and blood of living beings, thereby giving birth to the Six Paths of life. One must know that the Reincarnation Brush, Book of Karma, and Six Paths Millstone were all part of a single godly weapon, and these godly weapons complemented each other. For example, the Reincarnation Brush was used to outline souls and change, and determine the fate of all living beings. The Book of Karma was used to record the karma of all living beings in the world, allowing the souls of all living beings to merge into the Book of Karma. As long as the Book of Karma was not destroyed, these souls would not die. When these living beings died, their souls would return to the Book of Karma, and through the Book of Karma, the souls would enter the depths of the Six Paths Millstone. Then countless living beings would be born from the Six Paths Millstone, and the Six Paths represented all the living beings in the universe. For example, born from the Azura Path, there would be Azuras, ancient species, divine beasts, ancient beasts, and other special combat life forms. They were also incredibly strong, a race born for combat. Born from the human path, there would be humans. Born from the heaven path, there would be all kinds of living beings born from the heaven and earth. For example, the spirits of heaven and earth, gods, mythical creatures, law beasts, and so on. They were all born from the heaven path. Born from the hell path, there would be demons, monsters, and other hell races. Born from the wraith path, there would be heavenly demons, dark ghosts, evil spirits, and other terrifying creatures. Born from the animal path, there would be all kinds of animals, plants, monsters, and other non-human creatures. The creatures that were born from the 6 paths were basically all-encompassing, and all-encompassing. I see. Xiaoping immediately understood. With the reincarnation pen, Book of Karma, and 6 paths millstone, it meant that he had control over the strongest divine weapon, the 6 paths reincarnation. This was the strongest divine weapon that the Lord of Hell had back then. With such a divine weapon, he would be able to conquer the world, besiege cities, and be invincible. The souls of all living beings recorded in the Book of Karma would return to the Book of Karma after they died. As long as Xiaoping willed it, these living beings would be immortal and could be resurrected from the 6 paths millstone at any time. In the past, the Hell world used this divine weapon, the 6 paths reincarnation, to conquer one powerful universe after another. As a result, they lived for a total of 9 lives. An unprecedented feat, however. Resurrection didn't come without a price. It would consume a large amount of the universe's origin energy. The stronger the living being, the more energy it would consume to resurrect. But if the corpses of the experts were thrown into the 6 paths millstone, the energy consumption would be greatly reduced. For example, the Hell world killed many gods from other universes and threw their corpses into the 6 paths millstone. As a result, more and more powerful living beings were born. What's going on? Why are there so many souls returning to the Book of Karma? It was at this moment, Xiaoping's heart skipped a beat. He sensed billions of human souls appearing in the Book of Karma, as if these souls had crossed the universe and returned to the Book of Karma. He squinted his eyes and sensed the message from the Book of Karma. He immediately understood what was going on. The evil gods were venting their anger by killing the furnace sorcerers of a world. As a result, that world was destroyed and burned into a sun. Then, the souls of the furnace sorcerers returned to the Book of Karma. Fortunately, their souls had returned to the Book of Karma. Otherwise, these human souls would have been devoured by the evil gods and lost the chance to reincarnate. Chapter 2903. They actually killed so many humans. Seems like the humans of the evil god universe will have a tough time in the future. Xiaoping's eyes lit up. He knew that after the evil gods were awakened, humans would not have a comfortable life. But his situation in the evil god universe was already set. No matter how angry the evil gods were, they wouldn't dare to do anything to the humans. They wouldn't dare to annihilate all humans. Otherwise, these evil gods would just be digging their own graves. This was a good thing for him. Unfortunately, these evil gods wouldn't be that stupid, and it didn't matter even if all the humans died. Their souls would still return to the Book of Karma. This was equivalent to plundering the source energy of the evil god universe. To the Book of Karma, the more souls it obtained, the stronger it became. If those evil gods were really that stupid and killed all the humans, then the power of the Book of Karma would grow to an unprecedented level. At the same time, it would be able to plunder large amounts of the source energy of the evil god universe. These human souls will temporarily stay in the Book of Karma. Once hell stabilizes, I will let them reincarnate. Xiaoping clenched his fist. He could actually use the power of the 6 paths of karma to revive these human souls. But there wasn't much meaning in doing so, because the war between hell and the evil god universe was imminent. In the future, there would definitely be a world-shaking war. Even if these humans were revived now, they might be affected by the war and die. So, it wouldn't be too late to send these souls to reincarnate after the situation stabilized. So, thinking of this, Xiaoping flashed and returned to Hell of Green Lotus. There seems to be quite a number of invincible demons. Xiaoping's heart thumped. He sensed that there were many invincible demons in Hell of Green Lotus. Originally, he had contracted over 1,000 invincible demons. But after such a long time, the number of invincible demons had increased drastically. Suddenly, there were 4,000 invincible demons. Their growth rate is so fast. Xiaping didn't expect his subordinates to be so passionate. During the time he left hell, these invincible demons went around looking for trouble with other demons and headed to other planes of hell. Because of the void monster's retreat, the demons' movements in the void of hell were smooth and unimpeded. Of course, they weren't looking for trouble with the lords of high-level hells. Instead, they were looking for trouble with invincible demons who were fighting for supremacy, relying on their advantage in numbers and the assistance of hell's magic treasures. They were simply invincible. 2 or 3 against 1, and often these invincible demons were defeated, then forced into a contract. Just the vast power of the bloodline alone was enough to burn all of the invincible demons present to death. Whatever life and death domain they had would be crushed into dust in an instant, and they would not be able to fight back. This was the strongest demon, a truly invincible demonic god. Very good. Xiaping said these 2 words calmly. Immediately, a terrifying power of the bloodline erupted from his body, and with his body as the center, it swept across hundreds of millions of light years. It was as if he had turned into an eternal sun, emitting unparalleled heat. Not only did these invincible demons not panic, but they were also extremely happy. This was because under the corrosion and influence of the golden crow of hell's bloodline, they felt the power of the bloodline in their bodies increase, as if it had been completely purified and integrated with the power of the golden crow of hell. They could feel the power in their bodies increasing rapidly, even though there was no difference in their comprehension of origin source laws. As their bloodline improved, their strength, speed, and the might of their divine abilities increased tremendously, doubling in strength. One must know that they were invincible demons to begin with, and their strength was terrifying beyond compare. Now, under the influence of the golden crow of hell's bloodline, their strength had doubled. This was simply unheard of. If this continued, even the demons who occupied the high-level planes of hell would not be a match for them. Go conquer more planes of hell for me, Xiaping said. Yes, master. The invincible demons were incomparably excited. Their blood boiled, as if they could see the birth of the Lord of Hell. When they conquered all the surrounding high-level planes of hell and subdued all the invincible demons, their master would naturally be crowned king. Chapter 2904. Seeing so many demon subordinates, Xiaping was very satisfied. If he brought these invincible demons to the main universe, he would probably be able to sweep through everything. The so-called abyss world would not be a match for him at all. However, these demons were not creatures of the modern universe. Once they entered the modern universe, they would most likely be suppressed by the origin of the universe, causing them to be unable to display their original strength. Although he had the power of the true demon god and could deceive the origin laws of the universe, it was impossible for so many invincible demons to deceive all of them. He did not have that much power. However, this didn't matter much. Even if it was just him alone, he could hammer that group of abyssal demons to death. At that moment, Xiaping's heart stirred. He asked the green ox, "By the way, where did Tanmenglu and the rest go? Why can't I see them anywhere?" He used his divine sense to probe his surroundings. Be it the Green Lotus Hell, or the Mountain and Sea Scripture World, he did not see Tanmenglu and the others. No, it wasn't just Tanmenglu. Xiao Jin, Xiao Dumbo, and the others were nowhere to be found. "Master, they went to Gaia Paradise." The green ox said. "Gaia Paradise? Why is it so sudden?" Xiaping blinked. He had always wanted to enter Gaia Paradise to take a look, but the few Gaia Lolas were gaming all day and were extremely dispirited. He couldn't find a chance to head to Gaia Paradise to take a look. However, he did not expect them to suddenly return to Gaia Paradise. They even brought Tanmenglu and company with them. This is what happened. After those Gaia children returned to the Hell world, their strength improved greatly. They advanced to the realm of ancient sages. It seems that they had completed the mission beyond what they had to complete. Therefore, they were summoned back by Elder Gaia. The Azure Ox said, "Even Elder Gaia sensed little Dumbo's existence. Therefore, he invited little Dumbo to return to Gaia Paradise. Among them, Tanmenglu, Chong Xiaoqian, and Little Gold were all invited. However, to prevent angering the Gaia race, I did not use any means of tracking them. Up to this day, I still do not know where they have gone. That's not a problem. With the Book of Karma, no matter where they go, even if they go to other universes, they won't be able to hide from me. Xiaoping smiled. The Book of Karma on him could track the endless karma. As long as he wanted to, he could track anyone who was related to him. I see Gaia Paradise is actually in such a place. Xiaoping took out the Book of Karma, and with a thought, he sensed that Gaia Paradise seemed to be in a distant universe. Its exact location was in the central universe. Wait, what's going on? Lu Rilon, Qingluan, and Tu Linglong are also in Gaia Paradise? Xiaoping's eyes lit up. He saw that the Book of Karma indicated that Lu Rilon, Green Phoenix, and Tu Linglong were in the same location. Furthermore, they were all in Gaia Paradise. One had to know how secretive Gaia Paradise was. Even the myriad races and invincible saints did not know where Gaia Paradise's exact location was. However, Lu Rilon, Green Phoenix, and Tu Linglong were in Gaia Paradise. It was unbelievable. Could it be that they had a fortuitous encounter in Gaia Paradise? Xiaoping was very curious. Thinking of this, he immediately made a decision to head straight to Gaia Paradise to see the situation. And if there was a chance to form an alliance with the Gaia race, it would be a good thing. Several days later, Xiaoping left the Infernal Realm. After leaving the Infernal Realm, he had condensed even more Nether God curse. He had condensed hundreds of thousands of them. Furthermore, the power of these Nether God curse was even stronger. It was enough for these invincible devils to contract even more devils. He believed that the next time he returned to the Infernal Realm, he would definitely see the Green Lotus hell growing stronger. There would be more invincible devils and more troops. I'm finally back. Xiaoping passed through the void passageway and returned to the southern universe. He sensed the rich and familiar origin energy of the modern universe and could not help but feel touched. This was the place where he was born and grew up. He could deeply sense the power and unfathomability of the universe's origin, as well as the care it had for the native life forms. And this feeling could not be sensed by life forms that did not head to other universes. At this moment, he felt that his understanding of the universe's origin law had deepened. It was as though endless origin energy was surging into his limbs and bones. At this moment, Xiaoping's heart stirred. He sensed a figure suddenly appearing in the void far away. He did not know when the figure had appeared in front of him. If not for his extremely sharp senses, he would not have noticed it. Who's there? Xiaoping narrowed his eyes and stared at the void in the distance. He was not too worried. At his current level, he was almost invincible in the universe. He would not be afraid of any enemy. Boom! At this moment, a ripple appeared in the void as a figure walked out from the depths of the void. It was a woman with a graceful figure. What? Xiaoping's pupils contracted. He immediately realized that the person who had appeared in front of him was the dragon race scientist Titania. This was not a projection but her real body. Terrifying nomological power emanated from her body. It was as though she had become one with the void in the universe. It was as though every breath she took caused the void to tremble. Clearly, Titania's power had reached the peak of the demigod level. And she was not an ordinary demigod. To be honest, Xiaoping had seen many invincible saints and demigods. However, no matter if it was the Dragon God Shrine Master, the Human Ancestral Master, the Invincible Demon, or the Demigod of the Evil God, none of them could compare to Titania. It seemed that Titania had already understood many great Tao nomological laws. If not for the restrictions of the universe, Titania would have become a god long ago. He could feel the frighteningly dense magic power in Titania's body. Titania even had a thick god-beast bloodline, almost as strong as the golden crow of hell in his body. If he guessed correctly, this should be the bloodline of the ancestral dragon, a sovereign god. Without a doubt, Titania had inherited most of the ancestral dragon's bloodline and reached a level never seen before in the history of the dragon race. Even the unfathomable dragon god shrine master could not compare to her. Hehe, I didn't expect you to find me. I thought I could hide from any saint in this universe with my void universe technique. Even the gods might not be able to find me. I didn't expect to not be able to hide from you. You are indeed the man I like." Titania giggled. Her beautiful eyes were filled with excitement. She looked at Xiaoping, as if he was her prey. Chapter 2905. How did you find me? Xiaoping could not figure it out. His whereabouts should be very secretive. He did not expect to be found by Titania as soon as he returned to the modern universe. It was unbelievable. It's simple. I once obtained the power of a sovereign god divination. Titania giggled. Whether it's a god ability, a peerless cultivation method, or a technology, I can easily divine them all. I can even easily divine the future. What? Xiaoping was shocked. He immediately knew how terrifying this power was. It was even more powerful than his bloodline ability foresight. At most, he could predict what would happen in the next few days, or sense any danger. However, this ability was different. It could calculate the endless future based on countless clues and information. There was almost nothing in this world that could be hidden from her. Titania had probably been besieged several times, but she was able to escape easily every time. It probably had a lot to do with this power. She probably already calculated her escape route every time she was besieged. She might even have calculated everything she did. This power was even more terrifying than Quetzalcoatl's power copy. After all, the things that could be copied could also be done by divination. It was even more powerful. No wonder Titania could become a world-famous scientist. This power was too unfathomable. If not for the restrictions of the universe, she would probably have become a sovereign god long ago. No, even if you can divine everything in the world, you can't do it without information. Even the cleverest housewife can't cook without rice. How did you find my specific location so accurately? Xiaoping frowned. He felt that he did not leave too many clues. That's right. You're very special. You seem to have the power to hide from fate. You can jump out of the calculations of fate. Even with my constant divination, it took me a lot of time and effort. Titania smiled. Based on where you appeared, what you did, and the traces you left in the universe, I calculated 18,931 possible places you could appear. Therefore, I set up surveillance cameras in all these places and set up teleportation arrays in all these places. No matter where you appear, I will be able to sense it instantly and arrive there in an instant. This perverted woman. The corner of Xiaoping's mouth twitched. This woman was a stalker through and through. She would do anything just to follow him. However, a stalker wasn't scary. What was scary was a woman with great strength and intelligence. What are you trying to do by tracking me for so long? Xiaoping took a deep breath and looked at Titania. What do you want? Didn't I tell you last time? I want to have you. Titania said arrogantly. Hee, foolish woman. Do you think I'm that easy to get? Things are different now. You might have had the upper hand last time, but don't even think about showing off in front of me this time. Xiaoping clenched his fists, and his body surged with violent magic power. He had killed countless lesser gods in the fiend god universe. No matter how powerful Titania was, she was no match for him. This woman wants to capture me and make me her wife? She must be dreaming. This is out of my expectations. I didn't think you'd become a mid-stage demigod in such a short time. This is unbelievable. There was a glimmer in Titania's beautiful eyes as she saw through Xiaoping's strength. Although you have traces of the flow of time on you, and you may have gone to an area where the flow of time is faster and trained for more than 10,000 years, but for a saint, this is still an incredibly fast rate of training. She clicked her tongue in admiration. To be honest, Xiaoping's speed of improvement was beyond her imagination. This was also outside of her calculations. This was also a variable. That was why she liked this man so much. He could actually surpass her calculations. It was unbelievable. One had to know that even God might not be able to escape from her calculations. Everything was within the trajectory of her calculations. Since that's the case, you should know how powerful I am. How dare you appear in front of me? Aren't you afraid that I'll capture you and give you to the dragons? Xiaoping clenched his fists, revealing a fierce expression. Indeed, as you said, in terms of combat power, A weak woman like me might not be your match. So, I actually made some small preparations before coming. Titania giggled. Small preparations? What exactly did you do? Xiaoping suddenly had a bad feeling. It was as if danger was coming from all directions, but he did not know where it was coming from. Do you see this flower? With a swoosh, a bright red flower appeared in Titania's palm. It had 9 petals and contained boundless power of laws. It gave off an unbelievable power and formed a whirlpool. It seemed like it could swallow souls with just a glance. What is this? Xiaoping asked. This is the flower of all things. Titania smiled. This is a space wonder I brought out from the dark forbidden zone. It was watered with the blood of the sovereign god Mother Earth. It contains the divine power of a sovereign god, and it contains infinite divine power and the power of all things. This flower is colorless, odorless, and silent. Its effect is also very special. It can promote the growth of all things and increase the speed of reproduction. Normally, in order to study the changes of various species and speed up their reproduction, I use the power of this flower to reproduce all things in the world. The effects are very good. Enveloped by the flower's power, these species reproduced and multiplied at a crazy rate. In just a short 100 years, countless lives were added, and the number of species exploded. It can be considered a good helper for me, and its power is something that even gods can't resist. Chapter 2906. One day later. In a unique space in the universe, this was one of Titania's secret strongholds. However, the flow of time in this space was different from the outside world. A day in the outside world was a year in here. One could imagine that after Xiaoping fell into Titania's trap, he was captured and brought to this place. Then something indescribable happened, and he was kept there for a whole year. Even though Xiaoping had a strong body, he could not withstand such torment. After all, this was a female dragon, and one that had inherited the bloodline of the ancestral dragon. One could imagine the quality of her body. Even though Xiaoping wanted to resist along the way, the effects of the myriad origin flower were simply too powerful. Even a sovereign god couldn't resist it, let alone him. After a year of toiling day and night, the result was obvious. This shameless female dragon had undoubtedly won the bid. Only then was this shameless woman willing to release Xiaoping. Alright, I'm done. You can go now. Titania said lazily. Bitch, after playing with me you want me to leave? Xiaoping gritted his teeth. Hehe, what do you want then? You want me to take responsibility? Titania sneered. Xiaoping was speechless. Why did he feel that these words were so familiar? As if he had heard them somewhere before. By the way, are you planning to go to Gaia Paradise next? Titania suddenly said. How did you know? Xiaoping was a little surprised. He had never mentioned such a thing before. When I was dual cultivating with you, our souls merged, and I accidentally saw it in some of your memories. Titania said. But I warn you in advance, Gaia Paradise is not a good place. It's very dangerous there, and you might die there. I'll die. What does that mean? Xiaoping narrowed his eyes. He sensed that Titania was not joking. She must have some information. I mean exactly what I said. Anyway, it's up to you whether you believe me or not. Get out. With a thud, Titania sent Xiaoping flying with a kick as soon as she finished speaking. Boom! In the next second, a ripple appeared in the depths of the void, and Xiaoping immediately left this space. It was unknown which universe's vacuum he had been teleported to. This woman is really merciless. She doesn't recognize me the moment she puts on her pants. Xiaoping gritted his teeth. He felt that meeting Titania was really bad luck. It was the first time a woman had him in such a tight spot. But during dual cultivation, there seemed to be something special in Titania's soul. But my flames burned it to death. What was it? At this moment, he also remembered that when they were dual cultivating, he suddenly sensed a mysterious and evil power in the depths of Titania's soul. But he did not think much of it. As he had seen too much evil in the evil god universe, the inferno golden crow flames in his body started burning instinctively, instantly burning the energy into ashes. That happened in an instant, and he did not feel much. Isn't Gaia? It looks like I have to visit Gaia Paradise this time. Xiaoping narrowed his eyes. After all, Tanmenglu, Chong Xiaoqian, Little Dumbo, Xiaojin, and the rest were all in Gaia Paradise. There was also Lu Rulan, Tu Linglong, Qinghuan, and the rest. He had to go now. And in of he got in. Of whoosh. Xiaoping's figure flashed as he used the space-time wings and flew towards Gaia Paradise, following the karmic threads. At this moment in a mysterious void, Titania stood up. After Xiaoping left, she no longer had that lazy and charming expression on her face. He's dead? I didn't expect that man to have such terrifying power. He could even kill a god's soul. Titania was shocked. To be honest, her body was in great danger. When the ancestral dragon bloodline in her became denser, the soul of the ancestral dragon was born in the depths of her bloodline. It seemed to want to possess her body and revive in this universe. If it was an ordinary dragon, it would be difficult to resist the ancestral dragon's possession. Titania was the strongest dragon genius in the history of this universe. How could she be willing to be possessed by the ancestral dragon? Even if the dragon race was created by the ancestral dragon. Fortunately, the ancestral dragon's soul had not completely awakened, or she would not have been able to resist it. Hence, she had been looking for a way to deal with the ancestral dragon's soul, doing all sorts of forbidden experiments. Although it was not very effective, it still effectively suppressed the ancestral dragon's soul's corrosion. In fact, if she was at her peak, she would not have cared at all. She could easily toy with those saints. But because of the suppression of the ancestral dragon's soul, she could not use her power. She even had to spend most of her energy to suppress the ancestral dragon's soul from awakening. But as time passed, the ancestral dragon's soul grew stronger and stronger. It will seem to be awakening soon. Just as she was about to despair, Xiaoping appeared. This was the only unexpected existence among the god's authority she had obtained. He was the only variable. As a dragon, she felt that perhaps this man's power could help her and resolve the ancestral dragon's soul's corrosion and possession. It was obvious that she had succeeded. When the two were dual cultivating, the ancestral dragon's soul had wanted to come out and invade her soul. She did not expect the terrifying power of fire to surge out of this man's body and instantly burn the ancestral dragon's soul to ashes. After all, that was the soul of a dominating god. It was not so easy to kill. Even though she had done countless experiments, she could not find a way to deal with the ancestral dragon. This was because the ancestral dragon was a creature beyond the norm. It was an existence unimaginable to mortals. It was simply wishful thinking to use mortals' intelligence to speculate about gods. It was impossible. But now, she had actually succeeded. She felt the ancestral dragon's soul deep in her bloodline disappear completely. She finally regained all her power. No, it was not as simple as regaining her power. She even took the opportunity to devour the ancestral dragon's origin energy and soul, obtaining its authority. This was equivalent to inheriting all of the ancestral dragon's power. Her power and talent had reached a level never seen before. I wonder what kind of child will be born. Titania touched her belly. She could feel the life inside her. She was very excited. She did not know what kind of child would be born from the combination of the two strongest bloodlines in the universe. Perhaps it could give birth to a god. But according to her calculations, it would probably take a long time for this child to be born. Chapter 2907. Wait, what kind of energy is this? Why is it so powerful? Xiaoping planned to head to Gaia Paradise, but after flying for a while, he realized that an extremely powerful energy was surging out of his body. The energy was extremely vast, as if it contained the power of dragons. It was as if countless dragons were wandering around his meridians. Could it be the origin energy that I devoured when I was dual cultivating with Titania? Xiaoping immediately thought of this. He realized that the origin energy in Titania's body was much more powerful and mysterious than he had imagined. It was as if he had not refined ordinary origin energy, but the origin energy of a sovereign god. Could this be the origin energy of the ancestral dragon? Immediately, He remembered the aura he had sensed in the dragon world. It was the ancestral dragon's aura, almost identical to the power in his body. However, there was no doubt that the ancestral dragon's origin energy in his body was much more powerful than any ancestral dragon aura he had encountered before. It seemed that Titania had indeed inherited the ancestral dragon's bloodline. He did not expect her to have so much ancestral dragon's origin energy in her body. It was unimaginably huge. He could devour so much ancestral dragon's origin energy just by dual cultivating with her. After all, the ancestral dragon was the same as the golden crow of hell. They were both sovereigns. Their bloodlines were on the same level and contained incredible power. Hence, it was definitely a fortuitous encounter for him to have the chance to devour the ancestral dragon's origin energy. Incredible power. Xiaoping's eyes lit up. He realized that the ancestral dragon's origin energy was completely different from the golden crow of hell. The golden crow of hell was the power of destruction, destroying everything and bringing death to all living beings. And the ancestral dragon had grasped the power of life. It seemed to have grasped the power of earth, wind, water, and fire. It could easily create worlds, and its power was the boundless life force that could promote the growth of countless creatures, raising their aptitudes and bloodlines, causing countless creatures to evolve. It was as if the ancestral dragon held the key to evolution. He realized that his body had undergone huge changes after absorbing the ancestral dragon's origin energy. It was as if his genes had evolved. Every inch of his muscles, every inch of his bones, and every cell was evolving. His power was increasing at a geometrical rate. It seemed to have surpassed the divine elephant of hell. No wonder the blood of these dragons has such an incredible effect. I'm afraid the power that the ancestral dragon wields is evolution. Xiaoping could not help but clench his fists. He recalled that the blood of every giant dragon had incredible effects. Even if it was combined with ordinary creatures, it could give birth to many draconic creatures. Originally, these creatures were just ordinary beasts, but after drinking the dragon's blood, they immediately became powerful subdragons, second only to terrifying creatures like the dragons. Not just ordinary creatures, but even plants such as flowers and grass, and even non-living things, such as stones, sand, and so on. If they came into contact with dragon blood, their physical form would immediately change, and they would evolve to a higher level of life, such as dragon blood grass, dragon bloodstone, and so on. In fact, if the aura of the dragon realm were to leak out, it could even help other realms advance. This was all caused by the power of the dragon's bloodline. At the end of the day, it was all due to the influence of the ancestral dragon's bloodline power. This was also why the ancestral dragon's authority was so terrifying. However, this did not mean that the ancestral dragon would let other creatures evolve for free. In fact, creatures that were affected by the ancestral dragon's power and evolved would have the mark of the ancestral dragon's power on them. They would all be controlled by the ancestral dragon and become the ancestral dragon's dependents. However, Xiaoping naturally would not be controlled by the ancestral dragon's power. The moment the ancestral dragon's mark appeared, it was burned to ashes by the infernal golden crow's flames, leaving only pure evolution energy behind. No way, it seems like I'm about to break through. At this moment, Xiaoping felt the infinite power in his body surging. This power wave was almost impossible to suppress. But of course, he did not need to suppress it. He had benefited from the help of countless furnace sorcerers in the evil god universe, which allowed him to obtain a large amount of origin energy at all times, which allowed his cultivation to advance by leaps and bounds. Previously, this huge amount of origin energy had allowed him to advance from the middle stage demigod realm to the peak of the middle stage demigod realm. He was just a step away from advancing to the late stage demigod realm. At this moment, he had obtained the ancestral dragon's origin energy and a part of the sovereign god's power. This was like an opportunity that allowed his power to break through rapidly. Boom! In an instant, Xiaoping felt his body tremble. His body and soul resonated, forming a buzzing sound as if it was the sound of the great Tao. With a cracking sound, a certain bottleneck in his body was suddenly broken by this power. Late-stage demigod realm. However, Xiaping was neither happy nor sad. To him, this was a matter of course. As long as he accumulated enough power in this realm, he would be able to break through smoothly. Of course, this was only applicable to Xiaping. If it were other demigods, it would not be so easy for them to break through. God knew how long it would take just to accumulate enough energy to break through. He felt that after advancing to the late-stage demigod realm, his magic power and soul power had improved a lot, at least twice as much. Especially his soul power. He found that his illusory realm had improved even more. In an instant, he could generate 400,000 great thousand worlds. When all of them were stacked together, it would produce an incredible illusory power. Even a lower god might not be able to resist such illusory power. Perhaps in an instant, a lower god would fall into an endless illusory realm, unable to extricate himself. It can't be. Has the illusory power become so strong that it can corrode the laws? Xiaping's eyes widened. He found that his soul power had spread out unconsciously. It seemed that the illusory power had easily integrated with the laws of the universe. It could even distort and deceive. Therefore, his illusory power could affect a lower god. It was because such illusory power could already penetrate the godhead condensed by the great Tao crystal and affect the soul of a lower god. To be honest, his illusory power was probably his strongest combat technique at the moment. Maybe from now on, I have to decide which path to take and which godhead to condense. Xiaping squinted his eyes. This matter was extremely important. It was basically related to the path of godhood that he was going to take in the future. At the same time, it was also whether he could reach the supreme realm. However, he did not think too much about it for the time being. When the conditions were right, success would come naturally. He would first raise his cultivation to the late-stage demigod realm. Swoosh. After a few days, after Xiaping consolidated his late-stage demigod realm cultivation, he continued his journey to Gaia Paradise. Chapter 2908. A few days later, following the Book of Cause and Effect, Xiaping finally arrived at an area near Gaia Paradise. No way, this is near the Dark Forbidden Zone. Xiaping squinted his eyes. He found that Gaia Paradise had appeared next to the Dark Forbidden Zone, hidden in a void node deep in the void. If it wasn't for the Book of Cause and Effect, he really wouldn't have been able to find the specific location of Gaia Paradise. It was because the restricted darkness region was just too dangerous. No one knew just how large it was. There were distorted spaces everywhere inside, stacking layer upon layer. It was said that even invincible saints would be lost in the Dark Forbidden Zone. Even if one didn't enter the Dark Forbidden Zone, just being near it would cause layers of space to appear, constantly twisting. Even ancient saints had to be careful when coming here. Otherwise, they would be instantly swallowed by the twisted power of time and space, and be banished into the eternal void turbulence. The Dark Forbidden Zone? Xiaping stared at the dark area in the distance. This place was the most mysterious area in the entire universe. Even invincible saints who had lived for countless years didn't know much about this place. Under his observation, he found that the Dark Forbidden Zone was full of densely packed restrictions and formations. One by one, they merged together as if they had formed independent void laws. Vaguely, the Dark Forbidden Zone seemed to be incompatible with the laws of the universe. It was like the cancer of the universe, constantly absorbing the energy of the universe. If it was other saints, they might not be able to see what the secret of the Dark Forbidden Zone was. But under Xiaping's observation, he suddenly found that the Dark Forbidden Zone was a giant nest. I see. Suddenly, Xiaping clenched his fists. According to the memory of Quetzalcoatl God, Chaos Jellyfish, and other sovereigns, in fact, similar nests had appeared in other universes. This was called the Doomsday Shelter. Because the universe had a lifespan, when the universe's lifespan ended, even sovereigns would fall along with it. And the more powerful the god, the faster they would die. To prolong one's life, the only way was to prolong the life of the universe, so that the universe could live a second or third life. But wanting to prolong the life of the universe was not so simple. God didn't know how many gods had tried to do this, But in the end, they could only watch the universe fall and die with it. But as time went by, some gods came up with a second way to survive, which was to create doomsday shelters. The laws of heaven and earth were different from the laws of the universe. If an ordinary being lived in such a shelter, they would be able to withstand the power of the universe collapsing. From there, they would live until the next universe epoch. Just like the Dragon Clan, the Phoenix Clan, the Black Tortoise Clan, the Qilin Clan, and the other Divine Beast clans, they were shelters built by the powerful gods of their respective clans, allowing some of their weaker clans to enter. They could survive the collapse of the universe, the destruction of the universe, and they could live until the beginning of the Second Era. However, it was not so simple for gods. That was because they were too powerful, and their entanglement with the universe's origin and laws was too deep. Their souls were practically fused with the universe's origin. So when the universe collapsed, the true spirits of the gods would be destroyed. Not even the sanctuaries could protect them, because ordinary life forms didn't get too deeply entangled with the universe's origin source. They were able to survive until the Second Era. Of course, because they weren't born in this era, their status was no different from the life forms of other universes. Like the life forms of other universes, once they appeared, they would be targeted by the universe's origin source. In fact, in the chaos, many life forms of other universes became wanderers in the chaos void. They couldn't enter any other universe, and they couldn't return to their own universe. They could only wander in the chaos void. Once they were discovered by the chaos void's monsters, they would most likely die. They would be devoured. As for the gods, they didn't want to die just like that. So they spent a lot of time, and after countless divinations, they finally found a way to survive. This way to survive was to fake death. In other words, they had to deceive the universe's origin laws, and force their true spirits out of the universe's origin source. That way, they could fake death, and they wouldn't fall with the universe. The problem was that fake death came with a price. If they wanted to free their true spirits from the universe's origin source, they would suffer a backlash from the universe's origin source. Even a Dominator-level god couldn't bear such a price, and it was basically a death sentence. Even if this plan succeeded, they would be extremely weak, and wouldn't be able to unleash their power for a long time. So in order to protect themselves, these gods spent countless resources to build god graveyards. This was to protect them from being killed by other life forms when they revived. From the scale of the darkness zone, it was clear that the gods of the previous universe had succeeded. Otherwise, the darkness zone wouldn't have such terrifying power. No, that's not right. It's not as simple as the previous universe's era. Xiaoping's eyes flashed. One had to know that the universe was a reincarnation cycle. After such a long time, it was unknown how many reincarnations there would be. If it was some powerful god, they might have a way to live through one epoch after another. In other words, the gods of the darkness zone weren't just from the previous universe's era. There were probably gods from the era before the one before that, or even the one before the one before that. It was precisely because of this that after epoch, countless gods pushed the darkness zone to become so powerful. This place also hid countless secrets of the universe. The life forms of the current universe had obtained countless benefits from the darkness zone. For example, the few divine weapons of the human race were found in the darkness zone. Are these gods going to revive? Xiaoping narrowed his eyes. He could totally imagine that if the modern universe evolved to a certain extent, the suppression of the universe's origin source on the gods of the previous era would weaken. They would definitely crawl out of their graves and revive instantly. It wouldn't be long before countless gods from the old era would appear in the universe. At that time, the so-called peak races like the human race, demon race, bug race, elemental race, and so on would probably not be a match for these gods. They would all be enslaved by these gods. The entire universe would also descend into a dark era. He knew that in the evil god universe, when those gods were still alive, the lives of humans were miserable. To be honest, such a situation would probably be many times more dangerous than the demons from the abyss invading the modern universe. Chapter 2909. Oh right. Should I take this opportunity to kill those gods that are faking their deaths? Xiaoping stroked his chin. To be honest, those gods were at their weakest right now. They were unable to put up much resistance. If he wanted to kill those gods, now was the best time to do so. This was like taking advantage of their weakness to kill them. Of course, those sleeping gods naturally thought of this as well. Hence, they had set up countless powerful restrictive formations in their tombs. Even if a god entered their tombs, he or she would suffer an unimaginable blow. This was also the reason why invincible saints would encounter so many unexpected dangers when they entered the Forbidden Darkness Zone. It was because they had entered the gods' tombs and were killed as enemies. However, this was not impossible. After all, after experiencing the collapse of the universe and the erosion of time, even the restrictive formations set up by dominating gods would be damaged. It was just like how even the most sophisticated machinery would eventually rust and malfunction with the passage of time, even if it was extremely powerful at the beginning. If he could seize these moments and opportunities, he might be able to break down the restrictive formations in their tombs and plunder all the treasures in their tombs. He might even be able to kill those gods. At this moment, Xiaoping's heart skipped a beat, as if he had a sudden inspiration. The golden crow of hell bloodline in his body shook, and a huge wave of information surged into the depths of his sea of consciousness. Rumble! In an instant, his soul seemed to have arrived in the river of destiny. He looked down from above, and saw 3 figures appearing in a dark place. They were Lu Rilan, Tu Linglong, and Qing Wuan. They were fleeing at high speed, and were in grave danger. They were being chased by some invincible saints, and even abominations. It was almost impossible for them to survive. There was even danger brewing in their bodies. With a thud, the scene shattered. Xiaoping immediately broke free from the space-time scene, and his eyes regained clarity. Is this foreseeing the future? Xiaoping squinted his eyes. This was his bloodline magic. It was a passive foreseeing of the future. If he encountered any danger, or if the people around him encountered any danger, this force would naturally appear to seek good fortune and avoid calamity. This was like a warning from the Great Path. That place is the Forbidden Darkness Zone. Why did these 3 people run into the Forbidden Darkness Zone for no reason? And they seem to have obtained some kind of treasure. Is that why they are being chased by the invincible saint? Xiaoping frowned. Forget it, I'll ask them when the time comes. According to this picture of the future, this will happen 1 day later. There should still be time to find them. Initially, he wanted to explore Gaia Paradise. However, now that Lu Rilan, Tu Linglong, and the Green Phoenix were in danger, he temporarily gave up on entering Gaia Paradise. It was better to save the 3 of them first. Whoosh! Thinking of this, his figure flashed and he immediately entered the dark Forbidden Zone. 1 day later, Lu Rilan, Tu Linglong, and Qing Wuan gathered on a dark land at the periphery of the Forbidden Darkness Zone. They fled frantically into the distance, at an extremely fast speed. He did not know what kind of fortuitous encounter the 3 of them had, but their strength had advanced to the level of a near-ancient sage. They had mastered the law of space, and their strength had increased by a lot. This was especially true for Tu Linglong. She was a space-time rabbit, and had a deep understanding of the space-time law. After advancing to the near-ancient saint realm, her strength had improved by leaps and bounds. With a casual leap, she seemed to have traveled hundreds of millions of kilometers. Even the countless space-time faults around them could not stop Tu Linglong's space-time power. Even so, Tu Linglong did not look relaxed at all. Did you get rid of those bad guys? Tu Linglong clenched her teeth. No. Lu Rilan shook her head. They left a tracking mark on us. If we don't get rid of the mark, we won't be able to escape even if we run to the ends of the world. Damn the tracking mark. It's too stubborn. No matter how we try to get rid of it, we can't get rid of it within a short period of time. We just accidentally obtained some god's treasure and inheritance. Why are those invincible saints chasing us like mad dogs? How shameless. Tu Linglong clenched her teeth. Hearing this, the Green Phoenix was helpless. How was this an ordinary god's inheritance? In fact, they had entered the Forbidden Darkness Zone by accident. After passing the Demon Divine Hall's test, their strength improved by leaps and bounds, and they advanced to the Lightning Tribulation realm. Normally, they would need a very long time to advance to the Immortal Saint realm. The problem was that the Green Phoenix's luck was too good. She was a divine beast favored by the heavens and earth. As her strength continued to grow, the Green Phoenix bloodline in her body became thicker and thicker. Her luck also became stronger. Things like picking up treasures when she went out, and obtaining an ancient inheritance when she fell off a cliff were child's play. Whenever she appeared in a place, she would definitely return with a bountiful harvest. Such luck also attracted the attention of the demon race saints. They tried to capture the Green Phoenix and study her carefully. Although everyone was part of the demon race was just a collective term for countless races. They actually included the fox race, wolf race, tiger race, elephant race, and so on. Every race fought to the death on a daily basis. The conflict was almost irreconcilable. As for demons like the Green Phoenix who had no background, they naturally did not care about them. Even if they killed her, no one would have any objections. In the process of being chased by the demon race saints, Tu Linglong made a space-time jump. With the Green Phoenix's luck, they actually passed through a space-time wormhole and entered the Forbidden Darkness Zone. Naturally, the demon race saints were also fearless. They jumped in and wanted to capture the two juniors. They did not expect that the demon race saints would be torn apart and devoured by the abomination of the Forbidden Darkness Zone. They were killed by such bad luck. The demon race saints were pitiful. Even though they had monstrous combat power, they could not win against luck. This was why supernatural powers could not win against fate. With the Green Phoenix's invincible luck, they were like fish in water in the Forbidden Darkness Zone. They turned misfortunes into blessings and obtained countless treasures. Then, they even met Lu Rulan, who had entered the Forbidden Darkness Zone. As a result, the three of them hit it off right away and became sisters. They kept adventuring in the Forbidden Darkness Zone. Their abilities improved by leaps and bounds, and they obtained countless treasures and opportunities. During one of their adventures, they accidentally entered a huge tomb of the god of sin and instantly fell in. Just like that, they were lucky enough to obtain the inheritance and all the treasures in the tomb of the god of sin. The tomb of the god of sin had already been attacked by some invincible saints for many years. Just as they were about to reap the rewards, 3 juniors got there first. Who could stand such a thing? The invincible saints were about to go crazy. They chased after Lu Rulan, Tu Linglong, and the Green Phoenix like madmen. You're tuning in to the Li Mei's Wuxia Whispers YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support, and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.